Hey, my friends, welcome back to the channel. Hope you are enjoying the videos. If so, please like, share, and subscribe. Somewhere in Southshire, 5 days had passed after Ethan's battle with Canal. Since Lily's older brother and sister knew that she didn't want to see them right now, both of them decided to return to Southshire to report to their father. Currently, Canal and Lyall were kneeling in front of their father, while their mothers, brothers, and sisters were looking at them with curious looks on their faces. "You lost to a dud." A voice filled with disbelief reverberated inside the main hall of the Langley residence. Canal wanted to say that he didn't lose and actually won his duel against Ethan, but his pride wouldn't allow him to say such a thing. The fact that the young man had forced him to take his werewolf form was proof that he had recognized his opponent's strength. Also, even in his beast form, Ethan had managed to break his nose. If those countless lightning bolts had landed on his body, he was certain that a broken nose would be the least of his worries. Sighing inside his heart, Canal nodded his head. "Yes, father," Canal replied. "I lost to Lily's mate." The people inside the room look at Canal in disbelief, and some of them even gasped after hearing his confession. All of them knew how strong he was, and for someone to defeat him, wouldn't that mean that Lily actually made the right choice in choosing Ethan as her mate? "Lyall, were you there when they fought against each other?" Lily's father, Seth, asked in a calm tone. "Yes, father," Lyall answered in a heartbeat. "I was there." "Then, can you tell us what happened?" Seth asked. Lyall shook her head. "Rather than tell, it would be best if I showed you what happened." The young lady took out a crystal ball from her storage ring, which was the size of a ping-pong ball. This was a magical artifact that had the ability to record images in real time. The downside was that it could only store one memory at a time, and each memory only lasted for half an hour. It was a decent artifact, and it was quite expensive as well. Even so, Lyall thought that this was a good investment when she bought it. Originally, she wanted to record Ethan's one-sided beating, which she would bring back to her family. But unlike what she had expected, the handsome young man actually managed to fight on par with her brother, which forced Canal to use his beast form. The small crystal ball glowed, and a projection appeared above the crystal ball. Everyone inside the main hall silently watched the battle with great interest. However, as the battle progressed, looks of disbelief appeared on their faces. This was especially true for Lily's biological mother, Lee, who originally thought that Ethan was a dud. The witch watched as Ethan bombarded Canal with magical spells, forcing the latter to get serious. However, near the end, when Canal successfully landed a blow on Ethan's body, which sent him flying towards the stands, something unexpected happened. As if the recording had a glitch, the red werewolf and the handsome young man disappeared midair. They only reappeared a few seconds later with Canal crashing down on the arena and Ethan kneeling on top of it, while coughing out a mouthful of blood. Everyone saw how Lily immediately jumped on the arena and stood between the injured young man and her brother. She was in her demi-wolf form, and her hate-filled eyes, boring into Canal, were clear for everyone to see. They saw how Professor Barrett and Professor Reinhardt appeared in the arena to end the battle. At the end of the recording, only Professor Reinhardt and Canal remained in the scene. They watched as the headmaster of Brynhildr Academy looked at the red wolf with a calm expression on his face. "Are you satisfied?" Professor Reinhardt asked. "Is he really a dud?" Canal asked back. Rhea watched as Professor Reinhardt smiled before answering Canal's question. "Even I do not know the answer to that question," Professor Reinhardt replied. "We tested him twice with the appraisal stone, and the result was always the same. He is a dud." Canal stood up before shaking his head in disbelief. "If all duds are like that, they would have already ruled the world," Canal stated. "Those are the same words that the founder of Equus Manor, Eilefer Equus, once said," Professor Reinhardt replied. "He stated that if there were more people like Fortis Dud, they would have certainly ruled the world." The projection ended there, and a pin-drop silence descended inside the hall. Lily's family was still digesting what they had watched. Since everything was captured perfectly, with the exception of the few seconds that Ethan and Canal disappeared from the arena, they recognized that they had underestimated Lily's chosen partner. A few minutes later, the silence was broken when Lyall spoke up, which made her biological mother, Zella, cover her face in embarrassment. Father, if you plan to break Ethan's and Lily's relationship, can I have him instead? Lyall asked with a flushed expression on his face. I'm sure that our bobbies will look good together. Everyone looked at the teenage beauty, with the exception of her mother, with weird looks on their faces. Seeing their gaze, Lyall lightly cleared her throat. Good things must remain inside the family, Lyall stated. Even if he is a dud, his strength alone is enough to qualify him as a worthy partner to our lineage. Personally, I don't want him and Lily to end their relationship. I have a feeling that, if he is given enough time to grow, he will certainly make a name for himself here in the Shire continent. Seth arched an eyebrow after hearing his daughter's high appraisal of Ethan. He had seen how the boy fought, and he had to admit that he was slightly impressed by his performance. Canal, tell us what happened in those few seconds that you and the boy disappeared from the arena, Seth ordered. Canal nodded. I think he forcefully sent me inside a domain. When I realized I was no longer inside the arena, I found myself in the open sea, where a raging thunderstorm was brewing. He continued to tell everything that happened, without leaving out any information. How Ethan suddenly gained overwhelming strength and punched him twice in the face, breaking his nose. And how Ethan had summoned a lightning bolt in his hand. When Canal mentioned the part about countless lightning bolts descending upon him, his siblings subconsciously shuddered, as if they were the ones about to receive that kind of heavenly tribulation. Fortunately, his domain shattered before those lightning bolts hit me, Canal stated. If they did. He left the rest unsaid, but everyone inside the room understood what he was trying to tell them. Brother, I have a feeling that Ethan only did what he did because you targeted his lovers, Lyall said in a disapproving tone. Truth be told, the moment I saw him, I felt that he was similar to Father. Even his reaction, when you targeted his lovers, was how Father would have reacted if our mothers were to be harmed by someone. What? Seth looked at Canal in disbelief. He has other lovers aside from Lily. Yes, Father, Canal replied. Although he regretted what he did in involving others in their battle, he decided to come clean. Because of that, I was a little pissed off and wanted to punish him a bit. You shouldn't have involved other parties in your duel, Seth growled. Even if you feel pissed about that brat having more lovers. After all, strong men attract strong women. Canal lowered his head in shame. He had no rebuttal for his father's words and decided to accept whatever punishment Seth would give him. After a few minutes of silence, the head of the family lightly tapped the armrest of his throne. A determined look could be seen on his face. A month from now, Brynhildr Academy will have their winter break, Seth stated. Send Lily a letter and tell her to bring Ethan here. I want to personally see this boy. Seth's wives also nodded their heads. Just like their husband, they wanted to personally meet this handsome young man who had piqued their interest. Unfortunately for them, Ethan had already promised Luna that he would spend the winter break in the Oswald barony so that he could meet her parents. He wasn't aware that Lily's family was paying close attention to him. Attention that he didn't know if it was a good thing or a bad thing at that time. Looking at the starry night sky as he lay on top of the roof of their residence, Canal recalled his battle with Ethan. During their fight, he could tell that the young man knew the basics of fighting. He wasn't overly strong, like someone who had trained since a young age, but his foundations were solid. Similar to him, Ethan's style was honed through fighting real battles, not friendly spars that were usually done to train noble children. Life and death battles, fights that could make someone lose their life in the blink of an eye, or where one mistake could spell one's doom. He could feel the rawness of Ethan's battle style, as well as his determination and will when they were fighting. Canal understood why the handsome young man hadn't escaped the academy in order to face him. He was certain that Ethan wanted to prove that Lily didn't make the wrong choice in choosing him, so he fought tooth and nail against him. Granted, Canal said something despicable, which forced the younger man to risk it all to stop him. That moment was when he realized that the so-called dud, whom he fought, was willing to risk his life for those that he held sacred in his life. "I guess he's not too shabby," Canal muttered. "You think so too?" A voice that made shivers run down Canal's spine reached his ears. Although he was being laid back and admiring the stars in the sky, that didn't mean that he had let his guard down. In fact, it was in moments like this that his guard was at its highest, with his senses extending throughout his surroundings. It was nearly impossible for someone to sneak up to him in this state, which made him frown. Even his brothers were unable to do this, which only left one person in their family, and that was none other than his father, Seth. "Tell me honestly," Seth said as he sat down beside his son. "What do you think of him?" Canal pondered a bit and organized his thoughts. Based on how Lily acted when she jumped into the arena to stand between Ethan and him, he knew that his sister was serious about the young man being her lifelong partner. And truth be told, after fighting him once, Canal no longer minded Ethan becoming his little sister's mate. But this wasn't what his father was asking him. Although Seth asked him the question, "What do you think of him?" the question wasn't meant to ask his opinion on whether Ethan was good or not. His father wanted to know if Ethan was capable of protecting Lily, and not the other way around. "Perhaps after he graduates from the academy, he will truly be strong," Canal replied. "But right now, I could easily end his life if I wanted to." Seth hummed as he gazed at the stars in the sky. Truth be told, Seth didn't care who his sons married. But when it came to his daughters, he cared a lot. He wanted their partner to be strong and able to protect them, just like he had protected his family during the bloody conflicts within their tribe. "Lyall seems smitten with him," Seth said with a faint smile on his face. Canal snorted. "My sister only has 2 qualifications for her mate. First, he must be handsome. Second, he must be strong. Perhaps she sensed Ethan's potential, so she wants him to be part of our family, either marriage through Lily or marriage through her." "She's really eccentric at times," Seth sighed. "Also, her hobby of collecting weird things is also a pain sometimes." Canal chuckled. "Father, I have a feeling that if you do anything to that boy, Lily will cut ties with our family." Seth nodded. "I can see that happening. It seems that being with him when they were transported back to time made him endearing in her eyes. Should I send your other brothers to pick him and Lily up during the academy's winter break?" "No need," Canal shook his head. "Lyall and I will do it. If Vlad and Logan were to go, they would definitely challenge him on the spot. Lily won't like that." "I guess you do have a point," Seth rubbed his chin. "After seeing your battle, I'm sure they're itching to have a round with that boy." "Yeah," Canal stated. "Those two will not miss an opportunity like this." The father and son no longer talked and simply admired the stars in the sky. Inside the infirmary of Brynhildr Academy, a handsome young man who had been sleeping for nearly 6 days opened his eyes. The room around him was dimly lit, and only the faint light coming from the lantern beside his bed illuminated his surroundings. Ethan slowly rose up from the bed, groaning due to how stiff his body was. He then stood up from the bed and did a few light stretches to help blood circulate inside his body. After some of the stiffness disappeared, he picked up a pen and a piece of paper. He wrote a short message and placed it on the pillow of his bed in order to inform those who would come to see him in the morning that he had already returned to Dud Manor. Having finished this, Ethan left his room and walked down the dark hallways of the infirmary. It was an hour before midnight, and almost everyone was asleep, including Professor Galena. When he left the infirmary, Ethan looked up at the starry night sky and sighed. The cold breeze that heralded the coming of winter blew past him. But instead of feeling cold, Ethan felt refreshed because the coldness somehow made him feel alive. Half a minute later, he began to walk in the direction of Dud Manor. He was still wearing the white patient robe of the infirmary, but that was fine. He would just change when he returned to the manor. However, he was only able to walk for a minute when he noticed two people in the distance. Both of them were walking in his direction, which made Ethan wonder if the two of them were taking a casual stroll in the middle of the night, or if they sensed that he was already awake. These two people were none other than Lily and Emma. Ethan could understand why Emma would be there, since she was a seer. It was possible that she had gained a vision that he would be waking up today. As for Lily, "I sensed that you would be waking up tonight, so I waited," Lily said before giving Ethan a hug. "I'm sorry for what happened. I promise I will not let my family challenge you again." "It's okay," Ethan replied as he hugged her and lightly patted her head. "Next time your brother returns, I'll send him flying." Lily would usually giggle after hearing him talk like this, but she wasn't in the mood to talk about her family right now, so she remained quiet and simply enjoyed Ethan's warm embrace. "How are you feeling, Master?" Emma asked as she stood a meter away from Ethan and Lily, giving both of them some space. "I'm feeling stiff and maybe a little hungry," Ethan replied. "But aside from that, my injuries have all healed." Emma nodded. "Master, why don't you rest in my treehouse tonight? I have also prepared some midnight snacks for you." Ethan pondered for a bit as he continued to hug the beautiful lady in his arms. "Can Lily come too?" Ethan asked. "Of course," Emma replied. "The treehouse is something I prepared for you, Master. You can treat it as your own secret base. I also made some modifications while you were recovering from your injuries. I was wondering if you could take a look and tell me if you want something to be revised." Ethan wasn't really in a hurry to go to Dud Manor, and having a detour wouldn't be a bad idea. Because of this, he agreed to go with Emma to the treehouse, which was hidden in the small cluster of trees behind the Academy's library. "Just how were you able to do this?" Ethan couldn't help but say after exploring Emma's modified secret treehouse. "This is but a small matter, Master," Emma replied. "If there is anything that you want to be changed or revised, feel free to tell me." In the past, it was just a simple treehouse with a living room and one bedroom. But now, it had become more spacious, and the most amazing thing of all was that it now had 3 floors. The first floor was the living room, dining room, and the kitchen. The second floor had 6 bedrooms, while the third and final floor was a very spacious master bedroom. Emma said that she wanted to know if he wanted the setup of the tree house to be revised. But after seeing everything, Ethan had no complaints whatsoever. "You did well," Ethan commented, "but I just don't understand how you were able to build something like this without the Academy's knowledge." Emma could tell that Ethan was genuinely impressed with her, and it made her happy deep inside. "Actually, the Academy knows about this," Emma stated. "At least the headmaster before Professor Reinhardt. You see, this is the reward that your mother, Lady Catherine, asked the previous headmaster to give her." "My mother?" Ethan blinked in confusion. "This treehouse belongs to my mother." "Yes and no," Emma replied. "What Lady Catherine asked the headmaster for as a reward wasn't the treehouse, but the tree itself. She then used her magic to turn it into a treehouse. Basically, within the Academy, this tree is your mother's property. So anyone who has gained her permission is allowed to do whatever they wish with it." Ethan was very impressed after hearing Emma's explanation. To think that the tree house originally belonged to his mother made this place a bit more special than he originally thought it was. "Master, since this belongs to Lady Catherine, it means that this treehouse belongs to you," Emma stated. "So, you may do anything you see fit to do here. Also, only those who have been given permission can enter this treehouse. So far, the only ones who have that permission are me, Master, and Lily. But I will pass the authority of this treehouse to you, Master, so you can give permission for others to enter this place as you see fit." Emma then raised her finger and lightly tapped Ethan's forehead with it. A moment later, he felt a strong connection between him and the tree house as if it was part of his body. As if testing his theory, Ethan raised his hand. Immediately after, a wooden table appeared in front of him, making Emma smile. "I see, so that's how it works," Ethan muttered before waving his hand, creating several wooden chairs around him. After understanding how to modify the treehouse, Ethan snapped his fingers, and the wooden table and chairs that he created disappeared without a trace. "Thank you, Emma," Ethan said. "No need to thank me, Master," Emma replied. "This place rightfully belongs to you." "Even so, thank you." MMM. The three of them then went to the dining room, where several dishes were placed on the table. Since Lily and Emma weren't hungry, it was only Ethan who ate. Perhaps due to not eating for several days, Ethan easily finished all the dishes that Emma had prepared for him, making him feel very satisfied. After he finished eating, the three returned to the living room. Ethan and Lily sat on the couch, while Emma sat on the other couch across from them. "Do you have plans for this winter break?" Lily asked. "I do," Ethan replied. "I am planning to head to the Oswald barony to meet Luna's parents." "Oh," Lily arched an eyebrow. "So you plan to meet your future in-laws, not a bad move." Emma, who was listening on the side, pondered for a bit before asking Ethan a question. "Can I come too, Master?" Emma asked. The young man pondered for a bit before nodding his head. "I'll ask Luna first," Ethan replied. "If she agrees, then you can come with me. How about you, Lily? Want to come with us?" Lily didn't answer right away. Instead, she thought about it long and hard before giving her answer. "I would love to, but I can't," Lily replied. "The winter solstice holds significant meaning to our tribe. During that time, our family members will return home, regardless of where we are to celebrate the longest night together." It was then that Ethan remembered when Lily and he had spent an overnight vigil together on the night of the solstice. She explained to him back then that it was part of her family tradition. Even though she was thousands of miles and hundreds of years away from home, she still honored their tradition on the longest night of the year. "I'm sorry that I can't spend the winter solstice with you." Ethan's gaze softened. "But I will still do the vigil within the Oswald barony. So, even if we are not together, we will still be looking at the same sky." Lily felt something warm spread inside her heart after hearing Ethan's words. The meaning of the tradition of their tribe during the winter solstice was to strengthen the bonds of couples, families, friendships, and alliances. But most of all, this night was a night where couples stayed together in order to reaffirm their feelings for each other. "Understood," Lily said as she looked at her lover with a smile. "Even though we are far apart, we will spend the solstice together." MMM. Ethan nodded before planting a kiss on Lily's forehead. Emma, who saw this, took the initiative to tell Ethan that she would retire to one of the bedrooms on the second floor that she had claimed as her own. Ethan's shadow moved, and a second later, a black cat hurriedly sprinted up the stairs to go to the second floor bedroom as well. Emma and Lilith both decided to give Ethan and Lily some space together. Lily giggled after seeing this scene and lightly pinched Ethan's ear. "How about we continue this in the master's bedroom?" Lily asked in a teasing tone. "Sounds like a plan," Ethan replied as he stood up to lead Lily to the master bedroom. There they kissed and kissed and kissed some more. A moment later, the sound of rustling clothes filled the room. Ethan had just eaten his midnight snack, but he still had room for desserts. This was bound to be a long night, and Lily was more than happy to spend it with him. On a small island, Ethan sat cross-legged at the center of a lake. This was the same place where Luna had taken him a few months ago in order to unlock his magical powers. It was where everything started, and now Ethan was using this place as his own personal training grounds. The reason? It was the only place near the academy with a body of water he could use to train the power of his legacy. The first level of his legacy was Adept. In this stage, his body would gain a physical boost, allowing him to gain superhuman strength. The second level was called Elite. This allowed Ethan to summon a thunderstorm. However, since he couldn't use this ability, this level was useless to him at this point in time. At least, that was what he originally thought. However, after training with Sebastian inside his sea of consciousness, he realized that he was wrong in his assumption. While it was true that the second stage of his legacy allowed him to summon a thunderstorm, it wasn't that simple. The true purpose of the second level of the legacy was to control the power of the legacy. Simply put, while the first level strengthened his body, the second level strengthened his control over his legacy. Martial artists referred to this as martial styles, or techniques in a nutshell. While Ethan was unconscious, Sebastian taught him to refine his technique. Summoning a thunderstorm was just a prelude to this technique, allowing him to create an environment where he could use his elemental powers to its full potential. Although not perfect, Ethan could still control the bodies of water like rivers and lakes. However, his control over them would not be as strong as Lillian's, because she had dominion over these bodies of water due to her legacy. But that was fine. What Ethan needed right now was to control his powers and wield them to the best of his abilities. Taking a deep breath, Ethan ended his meditation and slowly stood up. He was only wearing swimming trunks because, if he wore anything else, they would just become wet due to the training that he was going to do. Summoning his sea god's trident, Ethan felt power surge inside his body. He then stepped onto the water of the lake, walking over its surface. Faint ripples appeared under his feet as he walked with steady steps. A few seconds later, he took a fighting stance and thrust his trident forward. The water around him surged and gathered at the tip of his trident, empowering his strike. Even if he couldn't summon a thunderstorm, as long as there was enough water in his surroundings, Ethan would be able to bend it to his will, whether or not he had magical reserves inside his body. After finishing a thrust, Ethan swiped his trident sideways, creating a blade of water that flew for several meters before exploding in a shower of water. The countless water droplets then all stopped midair, as if they were frozen in place. With his thoughts, Ethan commanded the water droplets to harden like stones. Soon, these countless water bullets descended on the lake's surface in a straight line, causing small yet powerful splashes, as if someone was using a machine gun to fire at the lake. A moment later, Ethan willed the power of his legacy to summon countless water blades that rose up from the lake waters dozens of meters away from him. These water blades then flew towards Ethan, as if they wanted to slice his body apart. Facing these relentless bombardments, the young man deftly used his trident to deflect and cut apart these water blades to the best of his abilities. The blue gem embedded on the sea god's trident glowed faintly, and before Ethan knew it, 4 water dragons rose up from the lake's surface to attack him. Sebastian was the one who summoned these serpentine-like water dragons, all of which lunged at Ethan with the intention to bite him in half. Knowing that he was at a disadvantage, Ethan used his control over water to skid on the lake's surface like a skater on ice. He then summoned countless water spears to attack the dragons, but his targets evaded them without any problems. In the end, Ethan changed his strategy and unleashed the water spears in a wide arc, using it as an area of effect spell. His plan worked, and the water spears did hit the 4 dragons, but that was all. They were unfazed by Ethan's counterattack, and all of them flew toward him like rabid dogs, ready to strike. Ethan continued to skid on the lake's surface, summoning water balls, water spears, and water snakes to shoot at the 4 water dragons, but it was of no use. The dragons no longer dodged his attacks, but none of Ethan's spells was able to stop their advance. It was like throwing eggs on a rock. No matter how many eggs one threw, the object that would break would be the egg, and not the rock. Quantity only works for weaker opponents, Sebastian's voice sounded on Ethan's ears. In the face of stronger monsters and fighters, what you need is to increase the quality of your attacks. Hundreds of water spears might not be able to break the scales of a dragon. However, 1 concentrated water spear would be able to pierce through its defenses. Ethan, you may not know this yet, but if you compress water to its very limit, you can cut metals and diamonds with it. Ethan was a little doubtful of Sebastian's words, but he also believed that the guardian of the city of Zentris didn't have any reason to lie to him. Right now, he probably wouldn't reach the stage where he could use water to cut a diamond in half. However, he planned to train until he was able to reach that level. For now, he only needed to cut apart the water dragons that were hot on his heels. But to be frank, he currently had no idea how to do it. So he did the only thing he could do. Run. Sebastian's training wasn't about defeating stronger opponents. It was to survive a battle against them. The Guardian of Zentris had created the water dragons to have different abilities. One of them was extremely strong. One was extremely fast. One was able to use magic extremely well. And the last one was an all-rounder. A water dragon that was strong, fast, and could cast magic. Countless water spells flew in Ethan's direction, forcing him to zigzag over the water's surface, evading them by a small margin. At that moment, he came face to face with a dragon that was extremely fast, who gave him no time to dodge its tail whip. Gritting his teeth, the young man used his trident to block its attack while creating a dome of water to protect him. To his surprise, the water dome broke instantly. The next thing he knew, he was sent flying all the way toward the island, crashing on his back. Ethan's muffled cry of pain escaped his lips. But before he could even recover, another water dragon slapped him, which sent him flying towards the lake. There, another water dragon was waiting for him. This dragon then used its tail to swat Ethan towards the lake, making the young man groan in pain once again. Ethan crashed into the water, creating a big splash. After that, silence once again descended onto the lake as if a battle had never happened in the first place. The young man's body slowly sank until it reached the deepest part of the lake. Sebastian didn't hold back despite the fact that Ethan had just recovered from his injuries. He understood that Ethan wanted to become stronger and that holding back wasn't an option. Although he didn't want to hurt him too much, as his teacher, he didn't want to betray his students' trust in him by making the battle easier. Since Ethan wanted to fight strong opponents, he would give him strong opponents. As the young man lay at the bottom of the lake, he saw something move out of the corner of his eye before losing his consciousness. What he saw was a mermaid swimming in his direction, and after that, darkness descended upon him. This mermaid was none other than Lily, who had gained the ability to transform into a mermaid. Ethan had given her his blood in order to save her from dying due to the necromancer's sneak attack. Since the 5 droplets of the Tidebringer's blood had perfectly merged with Ethan's blood, his own blood became stronger, giving him the power of a deity. The blood caused a mutation to happen to Lily's body, giving her the power to gain another transformation aside from her demi-wolf form. She then picked up the unconscious young man before swimming towards the surface. Since his legacy was still active even while he was unconscious, he didn't have to worry about drowning since he was able to breathe underwater. When Ethan opened his eyes, he saw Lily looking down on him with a worried look on her beautiful face. "Are you all right?" Lily asked. "I already helped you drink a healing potion, but I'm afraid that you will need to go to the infirmary to get treatment if you are still hurting." It took a moment for Ethan to register what Lily was saying. After understanding what she was telling him, he became aware of the pain and soreness that suddenly washed over his senses. "A little sore, but I'm fine," Ethan replied as he endured the pain in his body. "I'm sure that if I return to the infirmary, Professor Galena will nag at me for abusing my body so soon after having just recovered. I don't think I'm ready to hear an earful just yet." Lily giggled after hearing Ethan's reply, but she knew that he was right. "Do you want me to carry you to Dud Manor?" Lily asked. "No," Ethan replied. "Lilith will carry me instead. Don't worry. I have the strong regeneration ability of the Tidebringer's legacy. I'll be fully recovered by tomorrow." "Not if Chloe and Luna beat you up once they found out how you've been reckless," Lily commented. After waking up, you decided to come here instead of going back to Dud Manor. I'm sure that both of them are very worried right now." Ethan could only smile bitterly, because Lily was right. "Sorry, I was a little impulsive," Ethan replied. "Can you help me stand up?" Lily nodded and assisted Ethan until he was able to stand on his own. He was still feeling very sore, and he could feel a slight pain in his chest every time he breathed. Fortunately, none of his ribs was broken, so aside from the pain and discomfort, he believed that he would be fine when he woke up the next day. Lily helped him put on his wizard robe and mount her flying broom. Although Ethan told her that he would let Lilith carry him, she knew that this was a bad idea. Ethan knew this as well, so he didn't resist when Lily decided to bring him to Dud Manor using her flying broom. Fortunately, it was the weekend, so the route they took was devoid of people. Because of this, they arrived at their destination without being seen. "Careful, princess," Lily said in a teasing tone as she helped Ethan stand up. "I don't want to see you get hurt now, would I?" Ethan gave her the "I'm going to rock your world when I recover" gaze, which made the young lady smile sweetly. Unfortunately, just as soon as the two of them entered the manor, a young lady with light brown hair ran towards Ethan and gave him a very tight hug, making the young man groan in pain. I'm sorry," Chloe said the moment she heard Ethan's pained cry. "Are you still injured? Professor Galena said that you had made a perfect recovery and even snuck out of the infirmary last night." I'm okay," Ethan replied. "I just fell down the stairs." Chloe looked at the young man with a confused look on her face. "What stairs?" Chloe asked. "The infirmary doesn't have stairs." But before Ethan could even correct himself, an angelic beauty tugged on his robe and offered him a healing potion. "Drink this first," Luna said softly. "Maybe there are hidden injuries that Professor Galena didn't notice." Seeing the concerned look on her face, Ethan felt very guilty. So he gratefully accepted the healing potion and drank it without a word of complaint. After that, he confessed what happened earlier, making Chloe and Luna look at him as if he were out of his mind. "You just recovered," Luna stated in a disapproving tone. "Are you doing this because of what happened in the duel?" Ethan nodded. "Yes, I was just testing something out. I'm sorry, I'll be more careful this time around." Luna wanted to say more, but she decided to hold back for the time being. "You're not allowed to train for the next 2 days, understood?" Chloe crossed her arms over her chest. "Wait until you are fully recovered before you start training again." "Understood," Ethan replied. He knew that he should have rested for at least 2 more days, allowing his body to return to its peak potential before he asked Sebastian to spar with him. However, he wanted to test the training he had done inside his sea of consciousness, while it was still fresh in his mind. Just like what happened earlier, Sebastian had summoned 4 water dragons in his sea of consciousness, and Ethan fought against them. Although he didn't win, he was able to get a better grasp of his water control ability during their training. Another reason why Ethan decided to train after he just recovered was to see if there was a difference between training inside his sea of consciousness and training in the real world. After this incident, he realized that they were indeed very different from each other. Even the feeling of water touching his skin was more vivid, unlike the water that was created inside his sea of consciousness. Manipulating the water was also harder, making him think that he was only able to adapt faster to Sebastian's training inside his sea of consciousness, because that place, in itself, was his own personal domain. Without much thought, he was able to fight more freely inside of it and have better control over the water element. It was as if he just needed to think about something, and it would happen automatically. His mind and spiritual body were completely in sync, unlike his body in the real world. Even though he could think faster, his body couldn't keep up with his thoughts. In the real world, he had to concentrate harder before he could change the form of water into anything he wanted. This was the difference when it came to a personal domain and using something that didn't belong to you. Since his dominion lay in the sea, He had to use 3 to 5 times more effort and concentration before he could use the water in the lake to do his bidding. He might have gotten hurt in the process, but he was still satisfied to learn this lesson early. I need to train my mental strength next, Ethan thought. But before that, I need to see Professor Reinhardt. Ethan's other half told him that it was about time for him to make use of the giant black snake that they had defeated inside the legacy domain of Nightfall Academy. As long as certain conditions were met, Ethan would be able to give Emma a gift, which would help his promised one protect him and herself from those who were starting to pay attention to his potential. I'm not going to sneak out in the middle of the night to train, you know, Ethan said in a helpless tone to Luna, who was lying on the bed beside him and hugging him as if he was her pillow. I'm just making sure that you don't, Luna replied as she rested her head on Ethan's chest. If you are not going to sneak out, then you shouldn't have a problem with me hugging you like this. Ethan couldn't help but smile as he hugged Luna back and planted a kiss on her forehead. Chloe and the angelic beauty in his arms had become clingy ever since he returned to Dud Manor. If not for the fact that Chloe couldn't stay over for the night, she might have accompanied Luna to sleep in Ethan's room to ensure that he would stay put and properly recover from the new injuries he sustained. Fine, Ethan said. Have it your way. MMM, Luna hummed as she basked in her lover's arms and warmth. Selene was sleeping on top of the table, while Lilith was hiding in his shadow. Because of this, the two of them couldn't do anything too intimate, but they were fine with that. Soon, the two of them fell asleep. The next day, right after breakfast, Ethan told Chloe and Luna that he needed to talk to Professor Reinhardt for a bit. Although both of them were curious, they didn't make any move to stop him. A few minutes later, Ethan arrived at the headmaster's office and knocked. Come in. Hearing the headmaster's cue, Ethan entered the room and firmly closed the door behind him. He even made sure to lock it, just in case someone were to enter the room during his important discussion with Professor Reinhardt. You came at a good time, Ethan, Professor Reinhardt said before putting down the quill in his hand. Can you give me a minute? I'll just seal this letter. Please take a seat. Of course, Headmaster, Ethan replied as he sat on the chair right before the headmaster's desk. Professor Reinhardt smiled and blew on the letter, as if drying off the ink that was still wet on its surface. However, instead of being dried up, the ink vanished, leaving the scroll blank. The headmaster then rolled it up before planting his seal on top of it, which bore his mark. After making sure that everything was in order, he placed it to the side and shifted his gaze at the handsome young man with an amused look on his face. Ethan, before you tell me the reason why you came here, can you answer one of my questions first? Professor Reinhardt said. Also, if possible, I want an honest answer. This matter is quite a touchy subject since it involves Nightfall Academy. But rest assured, whatever your answer is, the only two people who would know of it are me and Professor Barrett. I just want you to know that both of us are on your side. Ethan tensed at first after hearing that the touchy subject involved Nightfall Academy. But since he believed that Professor Reinhardt and Professor Barrett only wanted what was best for him, he nodded his head in understanding. Okay, Professor Reinhardt pressed his hands together. Now, did you manage to capture the ancient Wendigo inside the legacy domain? Ethan hesitated for a bit, but before he could think of an answer to this question, someone spoke up inside his head. Just tell him, Ethan's other half said inside his head. This person, I feel that we can trust him. Having received the assurance of his other half, Ethan took a deep breath before nodding his head. Yes, Headmaster, Ethan replied. I managed to capture the ancient Wendigo using Fortis Dud's ring. At first, he wanted to say Morrigan's ring, but his lips automatically said Fortis Dud. Ethan was surprised, but he didn't make any effort to correct himself. Perhaps it is one of the safety measures imbued in the ring to prevent anyone from prying into its origin, Ethan thought. A look of surprise flashed across Professor Reinhardt's face, because he didn't expect Ethan to have actually managed to capture the ancient Wendigo using the ring that he had won as a reward during the initiation ceremony of Brynhildr Academy. It seems that you managed to unlock one of the functions of the ring in your possession. Professor Reinhardt smiled. So, aside from its ability storage, you can also capture live magical beasts with it. Quite interesting. The Ring of Fortis Dud was a mystery, so no one truly understood all of its functions. But in order to make things clear, Ethan decided to add more information so that Professor Reinhardt wouldn't misunderstand the ring's abilities. I can only capture one magical beast at a time, Professor, Ethan stated. If I captured more, I would have to release the one that I am currently detaining inside of it. Professor Reinhardt nodded his head in understanding. One is enough. I can't imagine the ring holding more than one. If it could, it would probably be one of the most broken relics in the history of the wizarding world. The headmaster of Brynhildr Academy stood up from his chair and walked towards the window of his room. Ethan, I received a report from the headmaster of Nightfall Academy that the creature they originally planned to capture is no longer inside their legacy domain, Professor Reinhardt stated. He has every reason to believe that you and your teammates captured their target. Because of this, they will dispatch some investigators and students from Nightfall Academy to visit us. They'll be here in 2 days, and they will be asking all of you a lot of questions. They even asked a few magistratus to act as witnesses for this exchange. Clearly, they plan to take the monster back if it happens to be in your possession. Professor Reinhardt then turned around to look at Ethan with a smile. Fortunately, you woke up early, Professor Reinhardt said. We can still do something about the ancient Wendigo in your possession. Tell me, is it still injured? Ethan nodded. It is still injured. Perfect, Professor Reinhardt grinned. Although I have other plans with the Wendigo we captured in the Great Eagle Forest, now is the right time to use it. Ethan blinked his eyes in confusion because he didn't understand what Professor Reinhardt was talking about. However, his other half, who was inside Ethan's consciousness, smirked because he already had an idea about what Professor Reinhardt was going to do. As expected, this old wizard is very sly. Ethan's other half praised the headmaster of Brynhildr Academy. Since Professor Reinhardt planned to help Ethan, he decided to cooperate this time around and ensure that the delegation from Nightfall Academy wouldn't find any traces of the ancient Wendigo that was missing from their legacy domain. That the issue with the ancient Wendigo has been addressed. Let's talk about your reason for coming to my office, Professor Reinhardt said before sitting back down on his chair. Do you need my help with something? Ethan nodded. Professor, do you know someone who has the power to shrink something? You see, my team and I managed to kill a boss monster inside the legacy domain. It is now stored inside of my ring, but it's taking up a lot of space. If possible, I want to shrink it. Professor Reinhardt pondered for a bit before nodding his head. I do have an artifact that can help me shrink things. How big is this boss monster that you want to shrink? At least 30 meters long, Ethan replied. It's a giant black snake with gold patterns on its scales. The headmaster looked at Ethan while lightly tapping his fingers on top of the table. Half a minute later, he nodded his head and agreed to the young man's request. Very well. Professor Reinhardt rested his chin over the palm of his intertwined hands. Meet me in the northern tower of the academy later at midnight. I will shrink that giant black snake for you, and I will also help you deal with the ancient Wendigo in your possession. Professor Barrett will also be there to ensure that no one will disturb us while we do the things we need to do. Also, if possible, don't tell anyone what we are going to do. The less people who know about it, the safer you will be. Do I make myself clear? Ethan nodded his head. Understood, Professor. I will come tonight at the promised time. Good, Professor Reinhardt smiled. You have just recovered, so don't do anything reckless. Otherwise, Professor Galena will definitely ask you to become one of her guinea pigs to test her homemade brews on. You may go now, and remember, don't tell anyone. Yes, Professor. Ethan bowed respectfully before leaving the headmaster's office. A minute after Ethan left the office, a certain Cheshire cat appeared on top of the desk with a smirk. It seems that you are cooking up something with that boy. Chessie said before it licked its paw. Well, since he managed to get the ancient Wendigo, it will be in the Academy's best interest if he gets to keep it, Professor Reinhardt replied. Is that your payback because Nero invited the Academies who have bad blood with your Academy? That and other past grudges between us. Chessie smirked. What a petty old man. Not as petty as you, Chessie, Professor Reinhardt countered. The two stared at each other for a few seconds before the chubby black cat stretched its body. After it was satisfied with its stretch, the Chesmeyer cat lay down on top of the desk and smiled. Because of what happened at Nightfall Academy, the academies that hate you to the bone are planning to target your students the next time they go out on their field missions, Chessie stated. Will you still permit that event to take place? Yes and no, Professor Reinhardt answered. I will open the mission hall for the 4th years and some selected students in the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd years. As for the other students, I will let the professors think of fun activities that will allow them to stay in the academy and earn merit points at the same time. Chessie nodded. So, you're only planning to send the graduating students and the other elites who can protect themselves. This is not a bad idea. You might even exterminate a lot of those rogue wizards and witches under their employ. Right, Professor Reinhardt smiled. Also, make sure to monitor their movements, Chessie. I'll make sure to properly compensate you, as always. HMPH, you better, Chessie replied. It's almost winter, and I need to go to Northshire for a bit. I promised the dwarf princess that I'd accompany her for the month of the solstice. Staying there is much better than wasting my time here in the academy. After saying those words, Chessie turned invisible and left a few parting words to Professor Reinhardt. He liked the old wizard, and if possible, he would like him to remain as the headmaster of the academy. The Care faction is planning to do something when spring arrives, Chessie said. You'd better prepare because those nobles are finally making their move. Professor Reinhardt nodded. Thank you, Chessie. Enjoy your winter break. MMM. When the headmaster was certain that he was truly alone inside his office, a long sigh escaped his lips. Those high-ranking nobles, Professor Reinhardt muttered. Why can't they just give me a break? The old man shook his head helplessly before snapping his fingers. A moment later, a raven flew inside the room from the window and landed on top of his desk. Please deliver this to Midgard, Professor Reinhardt said as he placed his sealed letter inside the metallic cylinder that doubled as a storage ring, which the ravens used to carry their packages. Fly swift, fly safe, Cole. The raven nudged its head against the headmaster's hand, making the old man smile. Don't worry, this will be your last mission this month, Cole. Professor Reinhardt patted the raven's body, making it close its eyes. Go, make sure that my letter reaches him. The raven nodded before flying toward the window, headed for Midgard, where the headmaster's allies could be found. Ethan arrived at the northern tower of Brynhildr Academy a few minutes before midnight. Fortunately, Luna didn't insist on sleeping with him tonight, so he didn't have a hard time sneaking out of Dud Manor. Upon reaching the meetup venue, he saw two men standing side by side, looking at him with a smile. You're finally here, Ethan, Professor Reinhardt said. First things first, let's shrink that giant black snake that is currently in your possession. The young man nodded and waved his hand. A moment later, the corpse of the giant snake appeared several meters away from him, making Professor Barrett whistle. This is a high-ranking magical beast, Professor Barrett commented as he walked close towards the dead monster and knocked on its scales with his knuckle. Resistant to magical and physical attacks, fighting this creature is surely a nightmare. It's a good thing that you managed to defeat it. It was a team effort, Ethan stated. Fighting it alone would have been complete suicide. The headmaster of Brynhildr Academy approached the giant black snake before fiddling with his beard. How small do you want it? Professor Reinhardt asked. Ethan thought for a while before giving his answer. As small as possible, Professor, Ethan replied. If you can shrink it until it's only a foot long, it will be better. Professor Reinhardt nodded before taking out a diamond-shaped artifact from his storage ring. Diminutio magnitudine. Professor Reinhardt pointed the artifact at the body of the black giant snake. A few seconds later, the giant black snake started to shrink slowly. Ethan subconsciously clenched his fists. If things went according to his plan, he would be able to revive the giant black snake using the power of necromancy that his other half possessed. After a few minutes passed, the glow of the artifact finally dimmed. What was once a giant black snake had now become a foot-long snake. Ethan then walked up toward it and picked it up with his right hand, giving it a closer look. He found it quite funny to think that the boss monster, who had once given them a very hard time, became small enough for him to pick up without much effort. "This works," Ethan's other half said with confidence. "Store it for now. I will deal with it later." Ethan agreed with his other half and placed the small black snake inside his storage ring. He then thanked Professor Reinhardt for his help, and the latter only replied to the young man with a knowing smile. "I don't know what you're going to do with that thing, but make sure that it won't hurt any student from our academy, okay?" "Understood, Professor. I'll keep things in moderation." Professor Reinhardt nodded before glancing at Professor Barrett. The ex-magistratus nodded back, which meant that all the preparations had been made. "Now, Ethan, I will tell you why we are here," Professor Reinhardt said. "Do you remember the Wendigo that we captured back in the Great Eagle Forest?" "How could I possibly forget, Professor?" Ethan said in a bitter tone. "It was the monster who almost took the life of someone very dear to me." Professor Reinhardt smiled. "Back then, I just thought of imprisoning it for a while before I dealt with it myself. But now, I have a better use for it. You see, Ethan, Wendigos grow by consuming those with strong magical powers. And whenever they reach a certain threshold, not only do they grow stronger, but they also evolve. The ancient Wendigo you have is a monster that has lived for thousands of years. The Wendigo that we have captured has only lived for hundreds of years. You could even say that the next stage of a Wendigo is to become an ancient Wendigo. Now, what do you think will happen if we let both Wendigos try to devour each other?" Ethan frowned before giving his answer. "Since one of them will be eaten, it means that the survivor will grow stronger, right?" Professor Reinhardt nodded. "Right, but since these two Wendigos came from two different regions, the two of them will have differences with each other. Nero and his students have already registered the magic imprint of the ancient Wendigo that they were planning to capture. They have even prepared a cage, specifically designed to contain it. I'm sure that they will be bringing that same cage here so that they can use it to identify the Wendigo in your possession. Of course, there are two ways we can deal with this. The first one is to keep hiding the ancient Wendigo. As long as you don't show it to anyone, there will be nothing for them to identify. But while this has its pros, there are still cons, so I thought of a better idea. I will let your ancient Wendigo consume the Wendigo we captured. That way, it will be able to absorb its powers, allowing it to heal its injury and change its body composition. You just have to make sure that, after absorption, it will take the form of the Wendigo that it has eaten, changing its properties completely." Ethan nodded his head in understanding. "Ready," Professor Reinhardt raised his wand. "Yes, Professor," Ethan replied. The headmaster then looked at the statue of the Academy's guardian and called out to her. "Brynhilder, come." As soon as her name was called, the statue glowed faintly and transformed into the beautiful Valkyrie whom Ethan saw back in the Great Eagle Forest. Brynhilder then flapped her wings to slowly descend from the tower until she stood a few meters away from Professor Reinhardt. "Brynhilder, I will need you to release the monster that you captured from the Great Eagle Forest," Professor Reinhardt stated. "However, make sure that it doesn't break free from your hold." The Valkyrie nodded her head in understanding before giving Ethan a sidelong glance. She had heard what Professor Reinhardt had said earlier, so she understood what they were planning to do. As to whether they would succeed or not, she was very curious to find that out too. Summoning her sword and shield, Brynhilder took a fighting stance. She then tapped her sword over her shield twice, and said the words that would release the Wendigo from its prison. Defies. Her round shield glowed faintly, and a black mist came out of it. Soon, this mist transformed into the Wendigo that Ethan hated with a vengeance. As soon as it regained its true form, the Wendigo attempted to escape. Unfortunately, there was simply no way for it to break away from its bindings. "Ethan, you have full control of your ancient Wendigo, right?" Professor Reinhardt asked. "Yes, Headmaster," Ethan replied. "Good, now do as we planned." "Understood." Ethan summoned the ancient Wendigo from Morrigan's ring. The moment it appeared, the Wendigo being bound by Brynhildr started to struggle even more in a desperate attempt to break free. "No," the Wendigo cried out, "you can't do this to me." Ethan didn't expect that he would feel some kind of satisfaction from being able to hold power over the Wendigo that had once made him feel helpless. Back in the Great Eagle Forest, this Wendigo did nothing but laugh at Ethan's and Luna's futile attempts to resist it. But now, Ethan found himself sneering internally at the sight of the Wendigo, struggling as desperately as they once did. "Devour him," Ethan ordered. The ancient Wendigo then transformed into a black mist and wrapped itself around the Wendigo that still hadn't given up struggling to break free from the silver chains that bound its body. "No," the Wendigo shouted. "You can't. I survived for hundreds of years. I refuse to yield. I refuse." A cracking sound reached Ethan's ears as the ancient Wendigo started tearing its prey into pieces, relishing every bite. Creatures like them enjoyed the suffering of others. The more fearful and desperate they were, the more delicious they became. Such negative emotions were the spices that made their meals tastier. Even when they were eating one of their kind, they made sure that their victim felt the same fear and desperation that they wanted from the wizards and witches, whom they treated as a delicacy. Ethan's other half chuckled heartily inside his consciousness. He was enjoying the Wendigo's desperation and suffering, which fueled his sadistic tendencies. Sebastian watched with a calm expression on his face. Unlike his partner in crime, the Guardian of Zentris didn't find what he was seeing as something entertaining. Even so, he believed that this was a necessary evil to make Ethan stronger. A few minutes later, the unwilling wails of the pitiful Wendigo finally receded. The ancient Wendigo, whom Ethan's other half named Daneslave, stood motionlessly as its entire body blazed with blue flames. Just like a butterfly breaking free from its cocoon, its body broke apart little by little, shedding its old vessel and giving way to the new. A pair of reindeer-like horns that glowed like blue crystals grew out from the blue flames. A moment later, burning blue eyes that were more intense than the flames immolating its entire body appeared. Even Ethan, who believed that the creature was fully under his control, felt a chill run down his spine. He could tell that the ancient Wendigo had become stronger than ever. The only question that remained was whether he was strong enough to make this monster submit without needing to use his authority by calling out its true name. When the flames finally subsided, a 4-meter-tall creature emerged from what remained of its old self. Its blue, reindeer-like horns looked like they were made of crystals. Its eyes burned with a bluish hue, as if it was holding back the chilling evil that permeated its entire being. Unlike its horns and eyes, its entire body was darker than black. Ethan was certain that on moonless and cloudy nights, the only thing that people would see from it would be its horns and eyes, peering at them from the darkness, making their worst nightmares come to life. Ethan's eye color slowly turned to purple as he gazed indifferently at the vile creature that could make even a magistratus fear for his life. "Kneel," Ethan's other half ordered. The creature tried to resist at first, but its master wasn't the patient type. With a single thought, an excruciating and soul-searing pain washed over the ancient Wendigo's senses, making it scream in pain. If not for the fact that Professor Barrett had erected soundproofing spells all around them, the ancient Wendigo's ear-piercing scream would have woken everyone in the academy, alarming all of them. The corner of Ethan's lips curled up into a sneer as he looked at the monster in disdain. Since he was the one who had given the ancient Wendigo its true name, he could kill the creature anytime he wanted to. But where was the fun in that? Since such a good tool was now in his possession, it was only natural to use it to serve its rightful purpose. And what is that purpose? To destroy and devour anything that stood in his way. In the end, the ancient Wendigo had no choice but to bend its knee for the handsome young man who held its life in the palm of his hands. Ethan walked toward the monster, whose kneeling form was still taller than him. But its size didn't matter. He then gestured to the monster to lower its head further so that he could whisper something in its ear. The ancient Wendigo obeyed, its gaze fearful of the devilish being that was hiding beneath Ethan's human skin. "Serve me well, and I will give you your due," Ethan whispered. "Defy me, and I'll feed you to a dog whose loyalty will remain till the end of time. Do I make myself clear?" "Yes, master," the ancient Wendigo replied through telepathy. Ethan smirked and tapped the monster's head with the ring on his hand. Immediately, its body transformed into a fiery blue mist that was sucked up by Morrigan's ring until nothing was left of it. The color of Ethan's eyes also returned to their normal blue color. Upon suddenly regaining control of his body, the young man nearly staggered. He felt more drained than usual, for his other half used his authority to make the ancient Wendigo submit to him. "Ethan, are you all right?" Professor Reinhardt walked toward the young man, who was panting for breath. "I'm fine, Professor," Ethan replied, "just a little out of breath." Professor Barrett, who also walked up to Ethan, had an amused look on his face. He and the headmaster of the academy had felt the sudden shift in Ethan's presence, which made them wonder what had happened a moment ago. It was as if he had a dual personality, and his other half had taken over his body to make the ancient Wendigo submit to him. The beautiful Valkyrie looked at Ethan with a frown, but she didn't say anything. Instead, she shifted her attention to Professor Reinhardt as if asking him if her duty was done. "Thank you, Brynhilder," Professor Reinhardt stated. "I will take it from here." Brynhilder nodded, and she transformed into an orb of light. She returned to the top of the tower and once again became a stone statue. The beautiful Valkyrie was the guardian of the academy. Unless her help was needed, she would remain in her place and wait there until it was time for her to appear once again. "Ethan, you will need to show the ancient Wendigo to the delegation of Nightfall Academy," Professor Barrett said. "I already told them that I gave it to you as a reward for helping to save your teammates on your expedition in the Legacy Domain. We reported to the Magic Bureau that we caught the Wendigo terrorizing the Great Eagle Forest months ago. Because of this, my peers are already aware that I am in possession of one. I have already talked to Professor Ophelia about this matter, so you don't have to worry about her. Don't let the delegation, especially the Magistratus, intimidate you. They cannot force you to give the ancient Wendigo to them. They have no jurisdiction over this matter, since this was already settled by the professors of the Academy. If they persist, then we can easily report them to the Bureau and ask for compensation from the Council." Professor Barrett patted Ethan's shoulder as a form of assurance. "The headmaster and I will be with you when the delegation arrives. If there are some questions that you cannot answer, leave it to us." Ethan nodded. "Thank you for everything, Headmaster Professor Barrett. I am very grateful for your help." Professor Barrett smiled. "There are many people who want to extend their reach into our academy. You don't have to do anything for now. But when there comes a time when we will need your assistance, I hope that you will not hesitate to aid Brynhilder Academy in its time of need." "I will, of course, do everything in my power to help the Academy, Professor," Ethan replied. "Although I just enrolled here, I feel that this is already my second home." Professor Reinhardt chuckled after hearing Ethan's reply. "It's good that you feel that way, Ethan. Now it's getting late, and I'm sure that you want to rest. You can now return to Dud Manor." Ethan nodded before summoning his wind dancer. The two professors looked at Ethan's flying broom with amused expressions on their faces, because this was the first time they were seeing such a thing. They watched as the young man flew through the sky until he disappeared from their sights. "It seems that he still has secrets that we don't know about," Professor Barrett said. "Well, everyone has a secret or two," Professor Reinhardt commented. "Since he doesn't tell us about it, then there's no reason to pry." Professor Barrett knew that his friend was right, so he didn't say anything more. Now that things had been settled, they no longer had to worry about the delegation from Nightfall Academy, who were still upset that their golden goose had managed to fly away before they could even catch it. Ethan originally wanted to return to Dud Manor, but his other half told him to take a detour and fly toward the lake where he had trained earlier. After landing on the center of the small island, the young man took out the black snake from his ring and tossed it on the ground in front of him. His eyes glowed purple as he drew a few symbols in the air with his hand, creating countless runes that flew toward the snake lying on the ground. A moment later, a magic circle appeared around the body of the snake, empowering the spell that Ethan's other half was imbuing into its body. He could have normally revived the black serpent as an undead creature, but Ethan's other half wasn't someone who liked to waste valuable resources. Since the giant black snake had eaten the treasure of the ancient Wendigo, its body had evolved into a more powerful beast, meaning it now had the capacity to evolve further, and he knew more than anyone how to maximize such potential. Pricking his finger with a small knife, Ethan looked at the black snake with a devilish smile on his face. His blood dripped over its body, making the magic circle beneath it shine even brighter. "Rise," the young man commanded, and the body of the black snake started to twitch. Soon, its lifeless eyes regained their color. The snake then looked at its surroundings in a daze, trying to understand where it was and what happened to it. However, it couldn't remember anything. Finally, it raised its head to look at the young man in front of it. Despite not remembering anything, the snake could feel that it shared a strong bond with the purple-eyed teenager, whose mere presence made it want to submit to him completely. "I now bestow upon you a name," Ethan's other half said. "From now on, your name is Nura, from the 13th member of the Zodiac who has been shunned through the ages." Words held power, and names allowed creatures to gain their own identity, making them superior to creatures who didn't possess them. This was especially true for magical beasts who had been granted a true name. There were only 12 zodiac signs recognized throughout the world, each representing one of the 12 months of the calendar. However, there was a 13th zodiac that represented the snake. Even so, this zodiac sign was excluded from the list, never to be known, except by those who knew the power of the stars and constellations. The snake hissed in acknowledgement of the name that was given to it by its master. It then slithered towards the young man's feet, crawling up his body until it reached his arm. Then, something unexpected happened. The snake coiled itself on Ethan's forearm, transforming into a snake armlet. The golden tint at the edges of its black scales made it look like an expensive accessory, which many people would find fashionable. "You will make a fine gift for my promised one." Ethan's other half nodded his head in satisfaction. Emma was a powerful witch and seer, but she didn't specialize in fighting. During battles, she'd play a more supportive role, and Ethan thought that it would be better if he handed the snake to her as her guardian. Since Luna now had Selene to look after her, it was only fair that Emma also received a guardian beast that would protect her. Ethan already had the ancient Wendigo, so he didn't need the black snake to protect him. Ethan's eyes returned to their original color, making the latter sigh. Whenever his other half used his abilities, the young man would always feel drained afterward. But he was also very satisfied with how things turned out. "Now I just have to find a guardian beast for Chloe," Ethan muttered. After saying those words, the young man heard a snort inside his head. "You think capturing strong magical beasts is easy?" Sebastian rhetorically asked. "Do you have a misconception that they grow in the wild like potatoes?" Ethan didn't reply right away. Instead, he pondered a bit before asking Sebastian a question. "What do you think would be a good guardian beast for Chloe?" Ethan inquired. Tusk, didn't you hear the words I just said? Sebastian clicked his tongue. But if you really want to give Chloe a guardian beast, any fire-type beast will do. So a dragon. Ethan, don't make me slap you. The young man chuckled after hearing Sebastian's reply. He was just joking, but like all jokes, he was half serious about it. He gave the snake armlet one last glance before summoning his wind dancer. It was way past his bedtime, and he needed to sleep because he still had classes to attend when morning came. A few hours later, Ethan had a complicated look on his face as he stood beside Nicole, who seemed to be enjoying their predicament. At the moment, the two of them were standing in the middle of the arena, with their classmates pointing their wands at them. Their martial arts instructor, Sir Lionel, had thought of a good way to make his class more exciting. Ethan had not been taking classes for more than a month due to the expedition in Nightfall Academy, as well as his 1-week recovery period after fighting against Lily's older brother, Canal. The knightly professor was very fond of Ethan because, despite not being able to wield magic in the past, he was a very hard worker. Even after seeing the young man's duels during the Clash of Manors, Sir Lionel still treated him the same way he did in the past. Okay, listen everyone. Sir Lionel clapped his hands to momentarily catch everyone's attention. As I mentioned earlier, we will be doing this fun activity to see how much all of you have improved after months of training. But to make this event more exciting, all of you will be allowed to use magic. The rules are really simple. You are allowed to use any weapon, armor, and artifact at your disposal. You are also allowed to use your flying brooms in order to gain aerial superiority against Ethan and Nicole. You are also allowed to use any spells, with the exception of spells that would slow, paralyze, bind, blind, and inflict debuffs at your targets. If you hit Ethan and Nicole with any kind of spell, you gain 20 merit points. If you manage to land a blow on their body, you will gain 20 merit points as well. The round will immediately end if Ethan and Nicole knock everyone off the arena or make them surrender. Don't worry. The protective spells are active, so none of you will suffer any serious injuries. Only 20 people can challenge them at a time. Each group will be given 20 minutes to fight against them. Since we have 60 people, we will have 3 rounds of fighting. Ethan and Nicole will be given a 10-minute break after each round to recover their strength. Don't worry, I will make sure to give both of you health, magic, and stamina potions at the end of each round to recover your strength. Aren't I nice? Ethan refused to comment on his knightly professor's antics. Nicole, on the other hand, just grinned as if she couldn't wait to start the fight already. Sorry, Ethan, Chloe said with a mischievous smile on her face while standing several meters away from him. Nothing personal. The young man rolled his eyes at the young beauty's shameless declaration. Leave Chloe to me, Ethan whispered to Nicole. I'll deal with her myself. Just do things in moderation, Nicole replied in a teasing tone. Make sure to not show your public display of affection to everyone, okay? You can do that behind closed doors. Ethan ignored her words as he summoned his sea god's trident. He then looked at Sir Lionel and waited eagerly for the mock battle to start. It had been a while since he fought against his classmates, so he was looking forward to seeing just how much they improved during the time when he wasn't around to attend his classes. After being woken up by Chloe, the two spent some intimate moments together. A little while later, she left to wake up Luna. On the other hand, Ethan took this opportunity to take a quick shower. Truth be told, he still hadn't fully recovered from their journey. Luckily, it was the weekend, so they didn't have any classes for the time being. He planned to use these 2 days to rest and take it easy. But knowing his luck, he had a feeling that things wouldn't go the way he wanted. A few minutes later, Chloe knocked on the door of his room. This time, she was not alone. Good morning, Ethan, Luna greeted. I hope you were able to get a good night's sleep. I did, Ethan replied before kissing Luna's cheek. Good morning. Chloe looked at the two of them with a puzzled gaze. Although this wasn't the first time Ethan kissed Luna in front of her, she sensed that there was something different this time around. The handsome young man looked at the two beautiful girls before noticing that something seemed out of place. "Where is Selene?" Ethan asked. Luna giggled before giving Chloe a sidelong glance. "Chloe scared her," Luna replied. "She refuses to come out, afraid that this academy is filled with scary people like her." "It wasn't my fault," Chloe protested. "I mean, she's just so cute and adorable. Is it a crime to hug her?" Ethan shook his head helplessly, because it seemed that all the ladies had a weak spot for Selene. Even Bridget and Sepharina wanted to pet her back in the legacy domain. Selene didn't like being touched, and she only agreed back then because she was scared that Ethan would eat her if she didn't allow his followers to pat her. Of course, she still firmly opposed letting Ace and Archer touch her, which was completely justifiable since both of them were guys. "Don't worry, Selene is just not used to strangers," Luna held Chloe's hand. "Once she gets to know you a little better, she will stop running away from you." "Really?" Chloe asked hopefully. Luna nodded. "Yes, she's a very kind and caring creature. She will warm up to you eventually." Ethan agreed with Luna's words. "Hold back a bit when you are trying to form a good relationship with Selene," Ethan advised. "She's not a cat or dog that you can hold just because you want to. She's an intelligent, magical beast, so you need to use a different approach to form a good connection with her." "Understood," Chloe nodded her head seriously. Clearly, she really wanted to get close to Selene, whose fur was so soft and fluffy, making all the girls want to make her their pet. But ultimately, she was not a pet. She was a magical creature, and now she was Luna's familiar. And this familiar was strong enough to crush boulders with a single punch on the nights of the full moon. "Let's go have breakfast," Ethan said. "Are we going to eat at the dining hall?" Chloe inquired. "They have this special pumpkin pudding they serve only on the weekends, but each manor can only have a limited number of them." Ethan and Luna glanced at each other and smiled. They understood what Chloe was hinting at, so they nodded their heads and went to the dining hall of the academy with her. As they walked towards their destination, Ethan noticed that many people were staring in his direction. This wasn't the first time this happened, so the young man was already used to this kind of attention. However, he couldn't shake off the feeling that the stares he was receiving were different this time around. "Is there something wrong with my face?" Ethan asked Chloe, who was walking on his right side. Chloe glanced in his direction and stared long and hard on his face. "I don't think there's anything different," Chloe replied after half a minute had passed. "Why?" "People are staring at me," Ethan answered. "Isn't that normal?" Chloe shrugged. "You should get used to the attention. More or less, you are a celebrity in this academy now." The handsome young man sighed in his heart before nodding his head. Right now, he was feeling hungry, so he ignored the stares of the students that were aimed in his direction. Upon arriving at the dining hall, he led Chloe and Luna to the table that belonged to Dud Manor and sat in their usual seats. "You can have mine." Ethan passed the pumpkin pudding he was served to Chloe, making the young lady very happy. "Thank you." Chloe happily accepted the limited edition pumpkin pudding. But just as Ethan was about to fill his plate with food, a young lady suddenly sat across from him and looked at him with a smile. Ethan felt his heart skip a beat as Lily looked at him with a mischievous gaze. "Hello, Mr. Gremory," Lily said in a teasing tone. "Do you have some time later? There is something I want to talk to you about in private." "Of course," Ethan replied in a heartbeat. How could he possibly say no to the young lady, who was now his secret lover? Only a handful of people knew about Lily's true relationship with Ethan, and they were none other than Chloe, Luna, and Nicole. This was the first time he was seeing Lily again after spending more than a month in Nightfall Academy. In fact, the handsome young man wanted nothing more than to see and talk to her again, for their long time apart made him miss her company. Chloe and Luna were also looking at the idol of the first years in the academy, with serious looks on their face. Although they didn't want to admit it, they felt a little intimidated by Lily, not because she was popular with the first years, but because she was Ethan's first lover. They understood that the situation they faced in the lands of Alastair was difficult, and the two girls were even thankful for what Lily did for Ethan. But in the end, they still felt as though she had snatched their golden egg away from them. Lily understood this as well. However, what happened already happened. Right now, all she wanted was to form a good relationship with Chloe and Luna, so that things wouldn't become awkward whenever they were together. When she was done giving her greetings, she returned to the table of Jaeger Manor with the promise of meeting with Ethan after lunch. Luna watched Lily's retreating back before sighing inside her heart. After experiencing everything that happened inside the legacy domain, she understood Lily a little bit. Sometimes, things outside of anyone's control happen. The only thing they could do when such a situation occurred was to adapt and choose the most appropriate course of action. Because of this, she decided to talk to Chloe in private later and tell her what had happened between her and Ethan while they were inside the domain. The angelic beauty didn't know how Chloe would react to her confession. But Luna believed that as long as she didn't hide anything from her best friend, Chloe would understand. Emma, who was seated at the table of Schwartz Manor, calmly drank her fruit juice as she gave her master a sidelong glance. Deep inside the depths of her eyes, a hint of expectation flashed for a brief moment before disappearing completely. Ethan had told her something just before they disembarked from the flying ship last night. If things went according to plan, then she would receive a gift from him that would aid her greatly, especially if she faced something that she wasn't capable of handling on her own. Just a little past noon, inside Luna's room in the Dud Manor. Chloe sighed as she looked at her best friend, who had a guilty expression on her face. Both of them were seated on the bed, with Selene resting on Luna's lap. "Don't worry, I understand," Chloe said as she held Luna's hand. "You're not mad?" Luna timidly asked. Chloe shook her head. "Why should I be mad? Both of us knew that it would happen sooner or later. Also, are you some sort of Wendigo magnet? It seems that Luna pudding is their most favorite dish." Luna couldn't help but smile bitterly when she heard her best friend's comment. The angelic beauty didn't expect the nightmare that she had in the past would have a repeat. Fortunately, she had a prince who came on time to save her, preventing the worst-case scenario from happening. That was also the impetus that made Luna throw caution to the wind and ask the handsome young man to embrace her. She no longer wanted to have any regrets in life because no one knew what would happen in the future. Chloe was surprised about the news, but she didn't feel bad about it. Luna was her best friend, and she wanted nothing more than her happiness. She believed that she had a special place in Ethan's heart, so there was no need to compete with her sisters, who loved the same person she did. Luna finally breathed a sigh of relief in her heart after seeing that Chloe didn't hold a grudge against her for what happened inside the legacy domain. This was something that had been weighing on her heart, and now that all that pressure had disappeared, she could breathe easier. "You know, I'm really curious," Chloe said as she patted Selene's body. Luna had asked her to let Chloe pat her, to make her best friend feel better. Selene reluctantly agreed, because she could tell that her master had a very close relationship with the young lady with long light brown hair. "About what?" Luna inquired. "What Lily wanted to talk to Ethan in private about," Chloe replied. "Aren't you curious?" Luna nodded. "I'm also curious. I saw Ethan leaving the manor an hour ago, and he was dressed in casual clothes. He might be going somewhere outside the academy." "That confirms it." Chloe looked down on the carbuncle that was now resting on her lap. "It seems that Lily wanted to go out on a date with him." "A date," Luna pondered. "Now that you mention it, the clothes he wore did look better compared to the ones he usually wears." Chloe smiled as she continued to pat Selene's body. "Since Lily has asked him for a date, I guess I can ask for one as well," Chloe thought. "It would be nice if the two of us could spend some time together. I wonder what they're doing right now." Inside an inn in Limburg town, Lily clung to Ethan as the latter groaned, with his arms wrapped around her soft, naked body. The handsome young man didn't expect that as soon as the two of them arrived in Limburg town, Lily would drag him to the inn where they had stayed on their return trip to the academy. Thinking that the matter she wanted to talk to him about in private was really important, he followed her without resisting. However, as soon as the young lady closed the door behind her, she immediately summoned her wand and cast a soundproofing spell inside the room. The next thing Ethan knew, all of his clothes were on the floor, and the young beauty was kissing him passionately on the lips, with her hands wandering all over his body. An hour later, the two teenagers lay on the bed completely sated, but still connected with each other. "I thought we were going to talk," Ethan asked before lightly slapping Lily's backside, making his lover, whose seductive body was lying on top of him, gasp. "We are," Lily replied before lightly biting Ethan's neck, leaving her mark on it as revenge. "But you seem to have missed me so much, so I decided to calm you down a bit first." "Are you sure that it was me who needed to calm down?" Ethan inquired in an amused tone. Lily didn't answer and continued to nibble on Ethan's neck, marking him as her man. Ethan could tell that something might have happened to Lily when she returned to her family. Perhaps this was also why she asked him to go to Limburg town with her, allowing them to talk in private. "Did something happen, Lily?" Ethan asked as he lightly caressed her smooth back, encouraging her to talk to him. "Did your parents say anything?" Lily, who had left several kiss marks on Ethan's neck, finally pulled back and looked down at her lover with a smile. "Something did happen," Lily replied. "What do you want to hear first, the good or the bad news?" "The bad news first," Ethan answered. "I don't want to start with the bad news, so let's start with the good news first," Lily giggled. Ethan didn't know if he should laugh or cry after hearing the young beauty's words. Since she already decided to tell him the good news first, was there any need for her to make him pick? "Well, the good news is that my mother acknowledges you as my future husband," Lily stated. "And the bad news?" Ethan asked. "My father wants to skin you alive, since he wanted me to find a powerful wizard as a partner that would help our lineage start producing more talented wizards and witches," Lily replied in a serious tone. "After learning that you are a dud, he wanted nothing more than to feed you to the dogs, so it would best if you don't leave the academy for the time being." Ethan frowned. "Your father is treating you like a breeding horse. Does he not care about you?" "He cares about me a lot," Lily answered. "That is why he is very angry. He wanted a powerful wizard who could protect me and not the other way around. My father thinks that you used underhanded means to seduce me so that I would protect you for the rest of your life." The handsome young man made an exaggerated sigh before kissing his lover's forehead. "Your father saw through my plan of becoming the perfect house husband," Ethan replied. "The only thing I am good at is being a stud horse and looking after the kids, while my lovers work to bring food on the table." Lily giggled after hearing Ethan's sarcastic reply. But despite her laughter, the anxiety in her eyes and words was very hard to hide. "One of my older brothers is going to visit the academy tomorrow," Lily stated. "I'm sure that the first thing he will do is to come and find you. How about you visit your grandparents for a day? That way, you and him will not meet each other." Ethan shook his head after hearing Lily's proposal. "Running away won't solve the problem," Ethan replied. "Also, your older brother and your father will look down on me if I suddenly disappear. They would think of me as a coward, and their belief that I am not worthy of you will only grow." "Ethan, I know that you are strong." Lily cupped the young man's face and looked at him with an affectionate gaze. "But my brother is very used to killing. In fact, almost everyone in our family is, including me. I don't want you to get hurt by fighting him." The young man smiled as he rested his hand on the back of Lily's head and pulled her close to him. "Don't worry," Ethan whispered in her ear. "I will show him that I am worthy of you, believe me." He then patted her head and assured her that everything was going to be fine. "But if you really fight with him, then the entire academy will know that we are lovers," Lily said as she closed her eyes. "Are you ready to face the wrath of my fan club?" Ethan chuckled after hearing Lily's words. Although he wanted to keep things a secret for as long as possible, he also understood that it was only a matter of time before his lover's fan clubs got wind of their relationship. "One step at a time, Lily," Ethan replied before kissing her forehead. "Just like what we had done in the lands of Alastair. We'll just face the things that are in front of us and conquer them together." Lily hummed. "You're right, let's face our challenges one at a time." She then raised her head and gave Ethan a sweet and lingering kiss on the lips. A moment later, they once again embraced each other, as their passion was reignited by their desire to stay with each other forever. A few hours and a shower later, Lily and Ethan emerged from the inn with smiles on their faces. They walked hand in hand, not caring if some of the students from Brynhildr Academy, who were in Limburg town, saw them. Neither of them had a destination in mind, so they simply let their feet take them wherever and enjoyed each other's company. After a few minutes of walking, Ethan and Lily found themselves in front of the Flying Broom store, where Professor Ophelia had taken the handsome young man in the past. "Brooms for all seasons," Ethan muttered. "Do you want to go inside?" Lily asked. She knew that although Ethan couldn't ride flying brooms, her lover always wanted to have one. "Why not?" Ethan smiled. "I'm hoping that Mr. Carwell is here as well." The two teenagers then entered the shop. There were a few people browsing the brooms for sale, but to Ethan's surprise, the person he was looking for was indeed inside the shop. "It's you," Mr. Carwell pointed at Ethan. "Good timing. I was about to look for you in the academy." A sense of expectation bubbled up inside Ethan's chest when he saw the excitement in the broom maker's face. "Is it finished, Mr. Carwell?" Ethan inquired as soon as he walked toward the counter, where Mr. Carwell was waiting for him. Mr. Carwell nodded. "Indeed, come with me to the backyard." Without another word, the old man made a gesture for Ethan and Lily to follow him. The young beauty, who had no idea what was happening, simply followed her lover. She wasn't born in Eastshire, so she wasn't familiar with the owner of the broom shop. But when she glanced at the young man, she noticed that his face was filled with expectations. Then and there, she knew that whatever was happening was a good thing. "Behold, Ethan," Mr. Carwell said with pride as he waved his hand to take out the flying broom from his storage ring. "The Wind Dancer." Ethan looked at the flying broom, with eyes as wide as saucers. Calling it a flying broom was an understatement. Sure, the base of the Wind Dancer looked like a broom, but the finished model looked more like a motorbike, without wheels. Even so, it was very impressive. Ethan had no doubt that the moment the students in Brynhildr Academy saw him riding this bike, all of them would turn green with envy. It was simply that amazing. Powered by 4 mana crystals, the Wind Dancer can fly up to speeds of 300 mph for 3 hours straight, Mr. Carwell said. This feature is called Overdrive, and after 3 hours, all of the mana crystals will be depleted. The good news is that these mana crystals are rechargeable ones. You just need to find beast cores or other mana crystals in order to power it up. If you like, you can even use your own magical powers to recharge it. It's amazing. The old man paused for a bit to look at Ethan's dumbfounded expression. Clearly, he had expected this kind of reaction, which made him look more smug than usual. Take note that if you are planning to use the overdrive function, it is best that you cast a wind barrier spell to protect yourself from the air pressure, Mr. Carwell explained in a serious tone. Otherwise, you will definitely be injured while flying at that speed. It is also possible that you might be blown off from the Wind Dancer completely if you're not careful. These 4 mana crystals can last up to 4 to 6 months if you use them normally. Truth be told, crafting this thing cost me 4,000 gold coins. I was too passionate, and before I knew it, I'd already spent that much. Mr. Carwell sighed in his heart. He had planned to give the Wind Dancer to Ethan so that he could test it. By doing so, he was certain that many people, especially duds, would want to purchase one. He was still in the process of trying to make a cheaper version of it, but even if he cut costs in materials, it would still cost 1,000 gold coins, which was something that most duds could not afford. Of course, if he truly made an effort, Mr. Carwell could make a functioning prototype that only had 1 mana crystal. The price would then drop to 300 gold coins. While it was still expensive, it was more affordable compared to the original Wind Dancer. "Take it, Ethan," Mr. Carwell said, as he lovingly caressed the masterpiece that he had spent many sleepless nights making. "But promise me that you will take good care of her." "Thank you, Mr. Carwell," Ethan said as he handed a pouch to the broom maker. "Please accept this as well." The broom maker accepted the pouch and took out what was inside of it. His eyes then widened in shock as he looked at the fist-sized blue pearl that was resting on the palm of his hand. This, Mr. Carwell looked at the blue pearl that was usually only seen in auction houses. "Is this what I think it is?" Ethan nodded. "Lur's pearl." "By the gods," Mr. Carwell looked at the pearl in his hands, which usually sold for tens of thousands of gold coins. "Are you sure that you are giving this to me?" "Yes and no," Ethan replied with a smile. "If possible, I would like to have a few more Wind Dancers made. I believe that Lur's pearl can be sold for a high price in auctions. I hope that it's enough to cover the expenses of making a few more of these for my friends in Dud Manor." Mr. Carwell finally calmed down after hearing Ethan's reply. Truth be told, he was also itching to make newer versions of the Wind Dancer, but the price was simply too steep. But with the extremely rare pearl in his hands, it was now very possible to create several Wind Dancers, and he'd even have plenty of gold coins to spare. After pondering for a bit, Mr. Carwell nodded his head. "I understand, but let me make a suggestion," Mr. Carwell stated. "Instead of making a Wind Dancer, I will make something else. The materials will not be as high quality as the ones I used for you. But I guarantee that the performance will be almost the same. However, the mana cores will be reduced to 2 instead of 4. This way, instead of making a few flying brooms that only a few of your manor mates can use, I will be able to make dozens of them, enough to provide all of your manor mates with their own Wind Riders." "Wind Riders," Ethan blinked, "not Wind Dancers." Mr. Carwell chuckled. "You know, Ethan, something is only truly precious when it's rare, just like this pearl in my hand. If you see a lot of them, wouldn't their value diminish? This is why I will call the next batch Wind Riders instead of Wind Dancer." The broom maker then patted Ethan's shoulder with a smile. "This means that you will be the only one in the world to have a Wind Dancer," Mr. Carwell said. "So make sure to keep it as a family heirloom in the future." After chatting for a few more minutes and finalizing the deal for the creation of the Wind Riders, Ethan and Lily took off to the skis. Usually, it was Ethan riding behind Lily, as she used her flying broom to fly in the sky. Now, the young beauty was hugging Ethan's back, as her lover tested the Wind Dancer for the first time. "It's just like riding a bike," Ethan grinned as he navigated the flying motorbike in the sky. "Let's go back to the academy," Lily suggested. "I want to see how everyone will react once they see your flying broom." Ethan nodded and headed toward Brynhildr Academy with a big smile on his face. Just like they expected, the members of Dud Manor went crazy after seeing Ethan's flying bike. They had long given up of being able to fly in the sky using a flying broom. But when they discovered that the handsome young man had already signed a deal that would provide them with their own Wind Riders, everyone looked at him as if he was Santa Claus. Lily could only giggle when she saw the members of Dud Manor toss Ethan high up in the air, similar to what they did during the Clash of Manors. She knew that this happiness of hers might be short-lived, since her older brother was expected to arrive the next day. Even so, she decided to trust her lover, who was determined to show her family that she didn't make a mistake when she chose him to become her partner for life. "So that's Brynhildr Academy," a young man who seemed to be in his mid-20s said with a smirk. "Not too shabby." The most prestigious academy in Eastshire could be seen even from a great distance. "Brother, do you think we will see that dud who used underhanded tricks to seduce our sister?" A young lady, who was in her late teens, asked as she walked beside the young man. Knowing Lily, she would have definitely informed him about our arrival, the young man replied. If he's smart, he would have left the academy in order to not meet us. And if he's there, the young lady asked with curiosity. If he's there, then I'll give him a bit of credit for not running away, the young man replied. I'll just beat him half dead and traumatize him enough, else so that he will cut all connections with our sister. But Lily said that he has already made her his woman. The young lady frowned. As long as he is alive, our sister will not be able to look for any other man. That is our tradition, no. The tradition is only valid if we accept it as valid, the young man replied in a cold tone. Also, the students of Brynhildr Academy conduct field missions 2 to 3 times a year. It will not be too late for that dud to have an accident on one of his missions and go missing. The young lady looked at her older brother with a sweet smile on her face. There are many magical beasts in Eastshire, too, the young lady said. They are always hungry. Right, the young man smirked. For now, I'll just make sure to beat him up to a pulp. The rest can be done after he leaves the academy. This is also a good opportunity to get Lily to understand that she made a wrong decision by picking that dud. I agree, the young lady commented. There are so many powerful wizards in the academy. If she chose them as her partner, then this wouldn't have happened. That hateful dud. If he only didn't trick our sister, things would have gone according to father's plan. The young man patted his sister's head in order to calm her down. Relax, let me handle this. After all, it's a brother's job to clean up after his sister's mess. The pair then sprinted towards the forest in order to take a shortcut to arrive at the academy. With their speed, it would only take them half an hour before arriving at their destination. Brynhildr Academy. Lily sighed as she observed her reflection in the mirror. She had just finished bathing and was currently drying up her body. Her skin, as white as cream and filled with youthful vigor, was reflected on the surface of the mirror. However, a single glance was enough to see that there were a few kiss marks on her chest, collarbone, and thigh. Marks that were left there by the handsome young man, who wasn't able to stop himself from imitating her desire to mark his body. I shouldn't have teased him so much, Lily muttered as her hand caressed the mark that Ethan had left on her right breast when they made love in the inn in Limeberg town. Of course, Lily also left her marks on Ethan, especially on the neck. However, she made sure to sprinkle a healing potion on the marks on Ethan's neck in order to erase all evidence. As for the rest, she left them as is. Ethan was her man, and she was his woman. Both of them had experienced many hardships together, so their bond was very strong. Far stronger than what her family thought. As she continued to stare at her reflection, she sensed a familiar feeling, which made her frown. Brother is here, Lily thought, and it seems that he didn't come here alone. Lily and her family could sense each other within a distance of 2 miles from each other. This was a special trait that ran in their family, allowing them to pinpoint each other's location with great accuracy. With another sigh, Lily walked towards her closet to pick the clothes she would wear today. Since her family was here, they would certainly come to see her first before finding her lover, who had decided to stay in Brynhildr Academy and wait for their arrival. I just hope Ethan will not be forced to use the 3rd level of his legacy, Lily muttered. Brother, if you go overboard and go for the kill, I will fight you if I have to. A flash of determination appeared in Lily's eyes. Although she loved her family, she would not allow them to seriously hurt Ethan. She would rather elope with him and escape to Midgard. Back to the city of Zentris, which was very far from the lands of her birth. Brynhildr Academy Garden. Countless fairies were buzzing around a handsome young man who was distributing bags of candy to each and every one of them. Thank you, Ethan, Ruby said before kissing Ethan's lips and snatching the bag of candy from his hand. I should be the one to thank you, Ruby, Ethan replied as he handed another bag of candy to a fairy, who gave him a kiss after receiving her share. I don't know who you are fighting today, but show them the power of fairies, a purple-haired fairy said, raising her small fist in the air. Fairies are the strongest. Fairies are the strongest. Ethan smiled and nodded his head. He had kissed Lily many times yesterday, so he had plenty of magical reserves. However, seeing the anxiety on her face, he knew that her older brother was very strong. The two of them had sparred with each other countless times in the lands of Alastair, so they were able to gauge each other's strength. For his lover to be this worried about his face-off with her family, he could tell that the current him was still not a match for her older brother. But not unless he used the third level of his legacy. Acquiring a legacy was all well and good. However, just like all skills and abilities, there were levels of mastery in it. The first level was Adept. When Ethan used this stage of mastery, he would use the power of the Tide Bringer's bloodline inside his body in order to give it a drastic boost in strength. Whenever the handsome young man fought seriously, he would always use the first level of mastery, allowing him to gain the boost of 4 Magna Amplifico stacked together. This gave Ethan superhuman strength. Even so, compared to Henry's, Ethan's physical strength was lower by 2 to 3 levels after Henry activated his Titan strength. Now that his head prefect had acquired the He Who Slays Giants legacy, Ethan was certain that Henry would become stronger than him when it came to physical strength. But the Tide Bringer's forte didn't rely on strength. It was wielding the power of the sea and storm, allowing him to become nearly invincible at sea. The second level of mastery was called the Elite. At this level, Ethan could call forth a storm, but this would only work if he was in the sea or near it. Because of this, Ethan was unable to use this ability to the fullest. It was also for this reason that Sebastian and his other half were urging him to make Lillian his lover and make love to her. That way, Ethan would be able to summon a storm on land, allowing him to use the second level of his legacy. The third level of mastery was called Master. Because Ethan was unable to use the second level of his legacy, he simply skipped it and tried out the third level once. He succeeded in his attempt, but since his mastery of the third level was incomplete, he was only able to use it for 5 seconds. In these 5 seconds, Ethan was like a freak of nature. His strength and speed increased further, and it allowed him to activate a domain. In this domain, he would be able to bring his opponent to a miniature world, similar to the place where he would always talk to Illumina, inside his sea of consciousness. Simply put, he would forcefully twist the surroundings to create a battlefield that was suited for him. And that place was none other than the sea. In the span of 5 seconds, Ethan could unleash a power that could obliterate the head of the giant black snake with a single punch. But the backlash of this skill was so severe that Lily forbade him from using it. In short, after Ethan used this skill, his body would enter a lethargic state that would last for days. Also, he would be unable to gather any magic power inside his body during that time. The last time he used the skill in the lands of Alastair, he had become bedridden for an entire week, making Lily very worried. The fourth stage of a legacy, which Ethan still hadn't touched, was called Great Mastery. Sebastian told him that after reaching this stage, Ethan would be able to summon the guardian of his domain. He also insisted that Ethan's guardian deity was stronger than the Kraken from the lands of Alastair, which made the handsome young man look forward to meeting it. The last and final stage of a legacy was called Perfection. In this stage, Ethan could tap into the origin magic of his legacy. Since his legacy belonged to the Tidebringer, he would be able to use the full power of the Tidebringer without suffering any backlash. The fourth and fifth stage was still impossible for him to grasp at this point. Sebastian told him that he shouldn't hurry to learn these stages because he still hadn't fully mastered the second and third stages of his legacy. But now that he was about to face a strong opponent, Ethan decided to gather as much magical power as he could. He had a feeling that he would be forced to tap the power of the third level of his legacy, which Lily had forbidden him to use unless it was a last resort. As someone who's reuniting with family members, you look mighty unhappy, Lily, the young man, who seemed to be in his mid-20s, smiled at his little sister who had come to meet them at the gates of the academy. "Of course, I am happy to see you, brother," Lily replied. "The only thing I'm not happy about is your reason for coming to see me." "Don't be like that, Lily," the young beauty hugged her sister. "We're just worried about you. Also, who would you rather come visit you here, us or father? I'm sure the answer is very obvious now." Lily's older brother, Canal, and older sister, Lyall, gave her the "you should be grateful that we were the ones who came here instead of father" gaze. The two of them were brother and sister born from the same mother, and among her siblings, Canal and Lyall liked her the most. Lily sighed before nodding her head in agreement. "Indeed, I am grateful that it is the two of you that came to see me." "Okay, now that we've met, how about you introduce us to that dud of yours?" Canal grinned. "I am dying to meet him." "Me too," Lyall commented. "I can't wait to rip him to shreds. I can't wait to get to know him better." Lily sighed for the second time as she looked at her siblings. "Very well," Lily replied. "Come with me." Canal and Lyall walked a few steps behind Lily. They both looked calm on the surface, but deep in their hearts, they were thinking about what very sinister things they could do to the teenager named Ethan, whom Lily had declared to be her significant other to their entire family. Everyone was very happy for her at the beginning, but when she mentioned that Ethan was a dud, an almost pin-drop silence descended in their family's hall. Canal could recall that scene as if it just happened yesterday. His father had managed to rein in his anger well, but Lily's mother wasn't able to stop herself from looking at her daughter as if she was mad. Lee was the only witch among their father's wives, and she understood what a dud meant in the wizarding world. Of course, the others weren't ignorant and knew what it meant as well. But as someone born from a wizard family, Lee was almost livid when she heard her daughter's statement. She had sent Lily to Brynhildr Academy because Professor Reinhardt was her senior in Equus Manor. Lee was certain that the headmaster would look after her daughter. But after hearing that Lily had fallen in love with the dud who had accompanied her on their journey to the past, she didn't take it well. Of course, since Lee didn't take it well, her husband, Seth, didn't like it either. However, they didn't scold Lily and reigned in their anger and disappointment. Originally, it was supposed to be Seth and Lee who would visit the academy in order to see the dud who had tricked and seduced their daughter. However, Canal's and Lyall's mother, Zella, voiced her concern for Lily's significant other. She knew that if her husband and sister went to the academy, the dud would certainly find himself 6 feet under the ground. Because of this, she proposed that her 2 children should go instead and meet the boy that Lily had chosen to become her partner for life. Seth and Lee agreed to this condition, and the talk ended in this manner. A day later, Lee had finally calmed down and talked to Lily in private. After her daughter said that she was truly in love with Ethan, the older lady finally relented and told her that she would accept her decision. Seth, on the other hand, was unmoved. He still looked down on the dud who managed to worm his way inside his daughter's heart. He believed that the teenage boy named Ethan had no prospects in life and would only leech off his daughter for life. What Seth hated the most were weaklings. He hated people who only relied on other people in order to survive and accomplish something in the world. Because of this, he secretly told Canal that if there was an opportunity, he must challenge Ethan in a duel. His goal was to beat up Ethan to the point that the teenage boy would take the initiative to break off his relationship with Lily, freeing his daughter from the shackles that he had placed on her. As Canal finished his recollection, he suddenly noticed that her sister had stopped walking. This made him frown, but after looking at what was in front of them, the corner of his lips curled up into a smile. Blocking their path was a handsome young man with long blue hair and eyes who looked at his sister, Lily, with love and affection. "Not bad," Lyall muttered as she looked at the handsome boy in front of her. She liked handsome guys, and Ethan definitely passed her standards. If only he weren't a dud, Lyall would be teasing Lily right now for managing to hook up with a guy who held an undeniable charm. "Ethan," Lily looked at her lover with an anxious gaze. Ethan, on the other hand, just smiled and nodded his head. His gaze was steady and no traces of anxiousness could be seen in it. "My name is Ethan Gremory," Ethan stated. "The two of you must be Lily's older brother and sister." "That's right," Canal replied. "My name is Canal and this is my sister Lyall." Lyall smiled mischievously. "Hi, handsome. After seeing how good-looking you are, I almost feel sorry for what is about to come." Ethan looked at the handsome guy and beautiful lady, who had features that faintly resembled Lily's. "Nice to meet the two of you." Ethan gave the two of them a nod of greeting. "I'm sure that both of you already know that I am Lily's lover." "Indeed," Canal replied, "but that will soon change." "Well, if you and Lily break up, I don't mind taking you in." Lyall covered her lips and chuckled. She was looking at Ethan as if the handsome young man was prey that she wanted to bite so that she could have a better taste of him. Ethan smiled as he looked at the two people whom Lily had warned him about. However, his next words not only surprised his lover, but her siblings as well. "Since we're already acquainted, why don't we all cut to the chase?" Ethan said. "Now tell me, which one of you am I supposed to fight?" "Since we're already acquainted, why don't we all cut to the chase? Now tell me, which one of you am I supposed to fight?" Lyall almost burst out laughing upon hearing the handsome young man's words. She immediately tugged at her brother's robes, making the latter look at her. "This guy is interesting. I like him," Lyall said. "Make sure not to kill him, okay?" Canal smirked after hearing Lyall's request. Truth be told, he was quite impressed with Ethan for daring to take the initiative to challenge them to a fight. This was why they came to the academy. In fact, Canal was already preparing the words that he would use to challenge Ethan the moment he met him. But these preparations were all for naught, because not only did their target come to them personally, but he even challenged them to a duel of his own volition. Although his plan to beat up Ethan until he was half dead didn't change, he decided to do it quickly instead of extending the young man's suffering. Truth be told, Lyall was very tempted to fight Lily's lover instead of her brother. However, she knew that she wouldn't be able to use her full power because she found him quite pleasing to the eye. If only he wasn't a dud, he would be the perfect partner for Lily, Lyall thought. Just as these thoughts popped up into her mind, Canal stepped forward and crossed his arms over his chest. "I will be your opponent," Canal declared with confidence. Ethan nodded. "Good. Let's go to the arena. I already asked Professor Barrett for permission to use it." Lyall moved closer to her sister, Lily, and whispered in her heart. "I really like this guy," Lyall whispered. "If you break up with him, hook us up, okay?" Lily glared at her older sister, making Lyall giggle. "Wow," Lyall hugged Lily after she finished giggling. "Scary." Canal followed behind Ethan and narrowed his eyes. He was trying to gauge Ethan's strength. He noticed that the handsome young man's steps were steady and didn't contain an ounce of anxiety or fear. Also, the way he carried himself made Lily's brother realize that Ethan knew how to fight. As to how good he was at fighting, Canal didn't really care. No matter what Ethan did, he was confident that it wouldn't faze him. After arriving at the Grand Coliseum, where the Clash of Manors was once held, they found that it was almost completely deserted. There were 6 people in the venue when they arrived, and they were none other than Professor Reinhardt, Professor Barrett, Chloe, Luna, Nicole, and Emma. Professor Reinhardt and Lily's mother, Lee, were part of a tight-knit group in the past. When Lily told the handsome young man that her family was coming to see him, she didn't hide anything and told him their purpose for coming. Since that was the case, he decided to ask Professor Reinhardt and Professor Barrett to let them use the arena to settle this matter privately. Chloe, Luna, Nicole, and Emma were not considered outsiders, so he allowed them to watch his battle against Lily's brother. Canal glanced at the 4 beautiful ladies and frowned. "Are they your lovers too?" Canal asked. His earlier goodwill for Ethan disappeared after seeing that Lily's mate had several other ladies aside from his sister. Canal had already decided to finish the battle as quickly and painlessly as possible, but now he changed his mind again. Due to his strong sense of smell, He could sense Ethan's scent lingering on the ladies. He had noticed it earlier, but his sister, Lily, was also giving off the handsome young man's scent, and it was even stronger than the rest of the girls who had come to watch their fight. Because of this, he decided to beat the crap out of Ethan according to his father's wishes. He would give the teenage boy the most painful beating in his life. "You better tone down your killing intent, young man," Professor Barrett commented as he looked at Canal. "This is a learning institution. We won't allow any of our students to be killed, even if the killer is someone who belonged to his family." Canal smiled, showing his canines. "Don't worry, Professor. I'm sure that even if I tried to kill him, either of you would make that impossible, right?" "Well, you're not wrong," Professor Barrett replied. As a retired magistratus, Professor Barrett knew Lily's family very well, especially her older brothers, whom no one wanted to provoke in Southshire. Professor Barrett only had praise for Ethan's potential, but he also understood that it was still too early for the boy to face off against Canal, who had already mastered his beast heart. Professor Reinhardt treated Ethan as a very important student of his academy, so he was also there to give his support to the young man. He and Professor Barrett had already placed protective enchantments all over the arena, preventing any casualties from taking place. "Thank you for agreeing to my selfish request, Headmaster, Professor." Ethan bowed his head respectfully to the two people who stood in the highest positions in the academy. "It is just a simple matter," Professor Reinhardt replied. "Don't do anything reckless, you hear? It will not be too late to beat him up in a few years when you have mastered your resonance." Ethan nodded before walking towards the arena. Canal trailed behind him, wearing a confident look on his face. He even gave the beautiful ladies, who had come to watch their battle, a sidelong glance. "Watch carefully how I obliterate this guy," Canal sneered in his heart. "I'll make you all understand that you chose the wrong person to love." The two combatants stood dozens of meters away from each other. Both of them critically eyed their opponent as Professor Reinhardt explained the rules of this duel. But seeing that neither of them was listening to him, the professor sighed and simply raised his hand to start the battle. "Duel start," Professor Barrett declared. As soon as he gave the signal, Canal took a step forward and lunged towards his opponent with a devilish smile on his face. He had already transformed into his demi-wolf form, granting him superhuman strength and speed. Chloe, Luna, Lily, and Emma watched as he closed the distance between him and Ethan in the span of a few heartbeats. Ethan, who was holding his sea god's trident firmly in his hands, didn't even manage to take a proper stance before Canal's fist almost broke through his defenses. Canal's punch was so strong that it pushed Ethan away, causing him to skid backward a few meters. He had already tapped into the first layer of his legacy, so he didn't receive any damage from the exchange. Moreover, he now had a better understanding of Canal's strength. "It seems like Sir Henry held back during our sparring match," Ethan thought. As the strongest student of Brynhildr Academy, Henry was known as the Mage Slayer. Ethan couldn't help but compare the head prefect to Lily's brother, whose powerful punch had managed to push him back despite having his body's performance boosted with 4 stacks of Magna Amplifico. Unfortunately, Canal didn't give Ethan time to delve in this matter, and he bombarded the latter with swift and powerful attacks, pushing the young man back each time his fists collided with his sea god's trident. "Nice, he's a good sandbag," Lyell muttered. "At least he can take a good beating." This comment of hers made Lily glare in her direction. Lyell immediately covered her mouth after she had subconsciously spoken what was on her mind, earning her the ire of her little sister. Canal, who was attacking Ethan nonstop, was quite surprised because the latter was barely holding on to his barrage. He was actually just using half of his strength, for he was afraid that his blow might accidentally kill the dud whom he was fighting against for the first time. Seeing that Ethan was able to barely defend from his attacks, Canal gradually increased his speed and strength. A moment later, he managed to hit the young man in the chest, sending the latter flying. However, before he could follow up with another blow, A pair of fairy wings appeared on Ethan's back, granting him the ability to fly upwards, dodging Canal's roundhouse kick. Lyle's mouth hung open because she couldn't believe her eyes. She then tugged her sister's clothes to ask her a question. "Is your boyfriend a half-fairy?" Lyle asked. "Why does he have wings?" "He's not," Lily replied. "He's just using fey magic." "But you said that he was a dud." "It's complicated." Lily knew where Ethan's magic power was coming from. However, the handsome young man asked her to keep this a secret. Because of this, Lily only mentioned that Ethan was a dud, which was technically correct. Other than the times when he kissed a lady with magical powers, he was unable to absorb magic, which was the source of his power. Also, she didn't want her parents to think that Ethan was leeching off of her by using her magic as a way to gain powers. "Magna duplici," Ethan said as his wand hovered around his body, creating 4 clones of himself. In this battle, his wand was in autonomous mode, allowing Illumina to support Ethan by moving on her own. They had worked together to perfect this battle style in the lands of Alester, since Ethan usually fought with the sea god's trident with both hands. However, this method drained a lot of Ethan's magical reserves, because he had to constantly supply his wand with magical power in order to keep up with the battle. Fortunately, he was prepared for this battle and had kissed dozens of fairies in the gardens of the academy. Simply put, he was prepared to duke it out with Lily's older brother. "Cheap tricks," Canal snorted. "If you are going to use this skill, I advise you not to use it against beastmen. You will only embarrass yourself." Canal then slashed forward, creating a crimson crescent blade that flew towards one of the young men who were flying in the air. Ethan dodged the attack, but as if reading his next move, another crescent blade had already been unleashed and was heading in his direction. This forced Ethan to imbue his trident with a torrent of water and to slash on the crescent blade, negating it completely. The handsome young man thought that he would have the advantage in the air because Lily's older brother couldn't reach him. However, he was not aware that Canal had also mastered the art of fighting against flying opponents. After all, most of the opponents that he killed were not only flying monsters, but rogue wizards and witches as well. In short, he was very experienced in fighting against flying creatures. Although his only ranged attack was his crimson crescent blade, it was enough to deal with anything that could fly. But Ethan didn't take his attacks lying down. Although Canal could find the real him amongst his clones, the handsome young man didn't cancel his clones and made them spread out. Grabbing the wand that was hovering around him, Ethan cast another spell. Lux Kika. A blinding flash of light descended upon Canal, forcing the latter to cover his eye with his arm. "Another petty trick," Canal said in contempt. "I guess this is the only thing that you can do." But as soon as he removed his arm from his eyes, he found countless purple fireballs descending in his direction. Fairy Ignis Impetum. Ethan casted countless purple fireballs towards his opponent non-stop. Canal hurriedly rolled to his right side to dodge the first barrage of fireballs that was aimed in his direction. His keen senses that allowed him to detect magical power had informed him which fireballs were real and which were not, allowing him to dodge Ethan's spell attacks. Aqua Anguis. Ethan once again chanted, and dozens of water snakes erupted from the tip of his wand and descended upon Canal, who easily dodged it as well. The young man then tried a different approach and cast the spell. However, this time, only one snake attacked Canal, while the rest hit the arena in random places. "Is this desperation I see?" Canal sneered as he obliterated the water snake that flew to him with a crescent blade that continued its trajectory towards Ethan. The young man dodged this attack and continued to attack Canal with the same strategy. Lyall, who saw this, shook her head helplessly because she thought what Ethan was doing was a waste of time. Even if the water snake were to hit her brother's body, it wouldn't deal any damage to him due to his superhuman abilities. However, Lily, who was watching the battle intently, suddenly realized what Ethan was doing. Although her lover seemed to be just randomly attacking the arena with the water snakes, she understood that Ethan was preparing the stage that would allow him to make full use of his abilities, which were heavily weakened when he was fighting on land. Canal eyed the flying young man in the sky and sneered. "I'll make you understand that flying doesn't give you any advantage against me," Canal declared. As soon as he made his declaration, 3 silver discs flew out of his storage ring, which were the size of a plate. Without warning, Canal jumped upward, heading towards Ethan's direction with a sneer on his face. Of course, his jump was unable to reach Ethan's height, but his next move surprised his opponent. One of the floating discs positioned itself directly right under his feet, serving as a foothold. When Ethan realized what happened, it was already too late. Due to Canal's explosive speed, he appeared a meter away from Ethan, throwing a punch that the latter barely managed to block with his trident. However, since he was only using one hand to hold the trident, he was unable to gather enough strength to block the attack completely, which sent him flying backward. The handle of the trident even slammed against Ethan's chest, making him groan in pain from the impact. Canal didn't miss this opportunity and used another one of the floating discs to jump above Ethan. Another floating disc appeared behind his foot, allowing him to descend upon the young man's body to deliver a powerful kick that sent Ethan crashing towards the ground. Illumina hurriedly created several bubbles of water to help mitigate Ethan's fall, but these bubbles exploded right away due to the force of Canal's attack. Even so, the mermaid princess had already expected this to happen. "Illumina," Ethan said through gritted teeth. The wand then transformed into a water dragon that caught Ethan before he could fall on the ground. "He now has better control over his partial resonance," Professor Reinhardt commented. "Yes," Professor Barrett replied, "but it's still not enough to beat Lily's older brother." Professor Reinhardt nodded. Both professors knew that Canal was indeed only using half of his full power, yet Ethan was already unable to face him head-on. This was not because Ethan was weak. His opponent just had more battle experience than him. Illumina gently placed Ethan on the ground and hovered above him in a protective manner. Canal, who had achieved what he wanted, landed on the ground with a confident smile on his face. "Not bad," Canal said. "I guess Lily lied when she told us that you are a dud." Canal gave his sister a sidelong glance before shifting his attention back to the young man, whose blood was seeping from the corner of his lips. He had already managed to land 2 blows on Ethan's body, and he was certain that the young man had suffered internal injuries from those 2 attacks. He wasn't wrong, and Ethan had indeed received serious injuries from his 2 blows. However, the blood of a deity wasn't just for show. Although blood was seeping down the corner of Ethan's lips, his internal injuries were not enough to prevent him from continuing to battle with Lily's brother. "Can you do it, Ethan?" Illumina asked the young man through telepathy. "Yes," Ethan replied, "but I am unable to move from this spot." Illumina nodded. "Understood. He is coming, get ready." Seeing Ethan's fearless gaze despite his injuries, Canal couldn't help but smile. "If only he didn't have more women in his life, I would have stopped here and acknowledged him," Canal thought. "But that's not the case, so I won't be satisfied until I give him a proper beating." As soon as he made up his mind, Canal lunged towards Ethan. The 3 discs that were still floating in the air also descended towards the young man. They were made from steel, so getting hit by them was very painful. Canal could control these discs as if they were part of his body, which made him a very versatile fighter. Among Lily's older brothers, Canal was the all-rounder. His strength and speed were very balanced, unlike his other male siblings, who either specialized in pure strength or pure speed. Ethan's eyes glowed faintly as he channeled his magic power to his feet, allowing it to spread throughout the entire arena. When his opponent was only several meters away from him, Canal increased his speed drastically, appearing right in front of Ethan with his right fist, planning to strike. But just as his punch was about to hit his target, Ethan disappeared and reappeared behind him. Rising dragon thrust. Ethan roared as he thrust his sea god's trident forward with the intention of stabbing Canal's back. His magical power flared, and his trident turned into a water dragon. Canal wasn't fazed as he prepared to dodge Ethan's attack by stepping to his right side. However, just as he was about to do that, the wet surface of the arena under his feet became slippery, making him lose his balance. **T. Canal cursed internally as the water dragon slammed on his body, sending him flying towards the stands of the arena. Lyall, who saw this, had her mouth wide open in disbelief. She didn't expect that Ethan would manage to land a blow on her older brother, making her look at the handsome young man in a new light. "Lily, I know that I already said this earlier," Lyall said, "but when you break up with him, make sure to hook us up." Lily didn't reply because she was seriously paying attention to the battle. Because of this, she managed to see something that made her almost jump on the stage of the arena to warn Ethan. But it was already too late. Something red pushed itself out of the water dragon's body. A moment later, a red blur flew towards Ethan at great speed, making the young man unable to react. "Nice try," Canal growled as his fist connected with Ethan's chest, resulting in a breaking sound. "But not good enough." As soon as he finished saying those words, the young man's body flew like a cannonball toward the stands, where Chloe, Luna, Nicole, and Emma were seated. Ethan coughed out a mouthful of blood as he flew towards them, but Canal wasn't going to let it end that easy. Once again, he lunged at the young man, using the floating discs as a foothold. Canal had fully transformed into his beast form, which was a 2-meter-tall red werewolf with skin as hard as steel. Lily's older brother was now using his full power, and he wanted to give Ethan another blow, which would not only give him a more serious injury, but would also send him flying towards the ladies who cared for him. This was a truly vile move, but his bestial instincts had clouded his judgment due to the anger he was feeling. He found it humiliating to have been forced to use his full power against his opponent, whom he had looked down upon earlier. Canal appeared right in front of Ethan, but before delivering the final blow, he whispered something in the young man's ears. "Don't worry," Canal stated. "I'll send you and your women to the infirmary together." After hearing those words, time seemed to move incredibly slowly. In that trance-like state, the loud beating of Ethan's heart resounded inside his head. He didn't mind getting beaten up, but involving his lovers in this battle touched way beyond his bottom line. Ethan, who was already seriously injured by Canal's blow, opened his mouth to reply to his opponent's declaration. "Grand Arya." Suddenly, the world around them changed completely. Canal found himself above the sea, where thunderstorms were raging. He momentarily forgot that he was about to give the final blow to Ethan, which would end his battle versus him. However, the handsome young man, whom he was about to punch, was now holding onto his fist in a vice grip, preventing him from going anywhere. Ethan's eyes radiated with power as he unleashed the 3rd level of his legacy. Lily's older brother had touched his reverse scale, and despite being seriously injured, he didn't hesitate to use it against his opponent. The next thing that Canal saw and felt was Ethan's right fist, which was imbued with lightning, smashing into his face. The blow was so strong that Canal felt as if he saw sparks the moment Ethan's fist made contact. However, it didn't end there. After punching his opponent, Ethan unleashed another punch, this time stronger and faster than ever before. A pained cry escaped Canal's lips as he crashed towards the turbulent sea, who rose up to hold him in place. With a mighty roar of anger and defiance, Ethan raised up his right hand and summoned a thunderbolt from the sky. He then wielded this thunderbolt and pulled back his arm, treating it as a spear. "Triana!" Ethan shouted as he hurled the lightning spear towards his hateful foe, causing more lightning bolts to descend from the heavens, covering the entire world in blinding light. Canal panted heavily as he looked at the young man in front of him who was already on his knees, coughing out blood. At first, he thought that everything he had just seen was an illusion. But his broken nose was enough evidence that what transpired in those brief moments was very real. The last thing he remembered was Ethan roaring, and with it, the heavens roared with him. Countless lightning bolts had descended upon him, illuminating the entire world in white. However, before those countless lightning bolts could hit his body, the world around him shattered. Canal then crashed into the arena, still bracing himself for the heavenly tribulation that didn't come. After realizing that he was back in the arena, he stared at the young man in front of him with a wary gaze. The images of what transpired earlier were still vivid in his memory. The red werewolf subconsciously shuddered at the thought of getting hit by that kind of attack. He was certain that even if he were to raise his defenses to the limit, he wouldn't come out of Ethan's all-out attack unscathed. Even in his peak condition, Ethan could only maintain his domain for 5 seconds. However, he used the 3rd level of his legacy while he was grievously injured, so the already short duration of his grand aria became even shorter. At that moment, a cry of anger reverberated in the arena as Lily jumped onto the stage and glared hatefully at her older brother, who had hurt the man she loved. Lily was already in her demi-wolf form, and her fur was standing on end, as if it were electrified. Her hate-filled gaze bore down on Canal, making the red werewolf momentarily forget the pain he was feeling. Chloe, Luna, and Emma all rushed toward the arena with their flying brooms to check the young man's condition. "This duel is over." Professor Reinhardt appeared between Lily and Canal. "Both of you stand down." The headmaster of the academy didn't know what happened in those few seconds, that Ethan and Canal disappeared from his vision. The next thing he knew, Canal's body crashed into the arena, while Ethan was already kneeling, coughing out blood. Professor Barrett also teleported beside Ethan and checked his condition. A deep frown appeared on his face because his diagnostic spell had revealed that not only had the young man suffered from serious injuries, both external and internal, but several of his bones were also broken. Recuperatio. Professor Barrett tapped his wand on Ethan's back, using his most powerful healing spell. However, he didn't really specialize in healing. The most he could do was only use the spell for first aid in order to help stabilize Ethan before transferring him to the infirmary. "I'll take him to the infirmary," Professor Barrett said to Professor Reinhardt. Professor Reinhardt nodded. "Go." Without another word, Professor Reinhardt waved his wand around him. A second later, both he and Ethan disappeared from the arena. Chloe, Luna, and Emma, who were a few seconds late from landing on the arena, immediately maneuvered their flying brooms to fly upward. Their next destination was the school's infirmary, where the young man was taken by Professor Barrett to get immediate treatment from Professor Galena. Lily glared at her brother for a few more seconds before she, too, summoned her flying broom to fly towards the infirmary to check on her lover's condition. "Are you okay, brother?" Lyell asked as she looked at Canal with concern. "He managed to break your nose." Canal waved his hand as if telling his sister that he was fine. His nose did get broken, but it wasn't serious and would easily recover after drinking a rejuvenation potion. Although he had very fast regeneration, Ethan's attack earlier wasn't easy to heal since it contained the power of a legacy. Even then, Canal's broken nose would heal itself within half an hour without a problem. "Are you satisfied?" Professor Reinhardt asked Canal. "Is he really a dud?" Canal asked back. Professor Reinhardt smiled after hearing Canal's question. "Even I do not know the answer to that question," Professor Reinhardt replied. "We tested him twice with the appraisal stone, and the result was always the same. He is a dud." Canal stood up before shaking his head in disbelief. "If all duds are like that, they would have already ruled the world," Canal stated. "Those are the same words that the founder of Equus Manor, Ile for Equus, once said," Professor Reinhardt replied. "He stated that if there were more people like Fortis Dud, they would have certainly ruled the world." Lyall, who was surprised to see her brother suffering from an injury, looked at the two men alternately with a frown. It looks like my little sister's boyfriend is a wolf in sheep's clothing, Lyle thought. I will definitely hook up with him if he and my sister ever broke up. Just like her brother, Lyle didn't believe that Ethan was a dud. She had seen him fight toe-to-toe with Canal, to the point that the latter was forced to transform into his werewolf form. This was something that should have been impossible to happen. But it did, which made Lyle strongly believe that the handsome young man, whom her sister had chosen as her mate, was much more than meets the eye. Just what in damnation happened? Professor Galena almost had a heart attack when Professor Barrett and an unconscious Ethan appeared in front of her. Barrett, what happened to that boy? I'll tell you the details later, Galena, Professor Barrett said as he waved his hand to make Ethan's body levitate. Stabilize his condition first. The head healer of Brynhildr Academy clicked her tongue as she took out her wand to cast a diagnostic spell upon Ethan. After seeing that the young man had suffered extremely serious injuries, she immediately tapped her chest and chanted, Summa Recuperatio. A golden light enveloped Ethan's entire body, making him breathe a little easier. However, what Professor Galena did was just the better version of what Professor Barrett had done earlier. It was only a way to help stabilize Ethan's condition, buying herself time to take several potions of different colors from her storage ring. The healer of the academy opened the cork of the potions one by one and waved her wand. The potions inside of the vials rose up like long, thin threads that hovered above Ethan. Professor Galena then waved her hand and instantly removed all of Ethan's clothing. His chest area was nearly black, along with the rest of his body. Blood was still seeping at the corner of the young man's lips, despite being unconscious. The older lady then pointed her wand at Ethan's chest, and the potions that resembled a thin thread of different colors wrapped themselves around the teenager's body, similar to how mummies were wrapped. The only thing left exposed on the boy's body was his bloodied lips, which proved just how serious his injuries were. Professor Galena took more potions from her storage ring and repeated what she did earlier. The old lady tapped Ethan's lips, making them open slightly. A moment later, the tendril-like potions flew toward his lips and slowly trickled down his throat. Professor Galena made sure to control the amount of potion that Ethan was drinking to ensure that he didn't choke while he was still unconscious. Professor Barrett, who was looking at this scene, suddenly turned his head towards the door of the infirmary and sighed. He gave Ethan one last glance before walking toward the door. The professor had no intention of letting the ladies who cared about the young man see him for the time being. He knew that Professor Galena was at the crucial phase in fixing the injuries that Ethan received in the battle. To ensure that she wouldn't be disturbed, he had to pacify the worried witches, who might tear down the infirmary door in order to see the person that they loved. The doors of the infirmary remained shut for 5 hours straight before an exhausted-looking professor. Galena opened the door and motioned for Professor Barrett to enter. I don't have the strength to deal with you, girls, Professor Galena said as she looked at Chloe, Luna, Lily, Emma, and Nicole, who had all come to check Ethan's condition. Just know that Ethan won't kick the bucket anytime soon. Also, he is not allowed to have any visitors for the next few days. Don't bother coming here just to annoy me. Don't worry, I will ask my familiar to notify all of you once he regains consciousness. But until then, none of you are allowed to disturb his recovery. Barrett, come. Professor Barrett nodded and entered the infirmary. The healer of the academy gave the girls one last glance before closing the door firmly and locking it in place. Chloe, Luna, Emma, and Nicole all looked at Lily, whose eyes were already red from the tears that she had cried earlier. Nicole, who was the only one who wasn't considered part of Ethan's harem, sighed before clapping her hands together. All of you should get a grip, Nicole stated. Ethan is no longer in danger, so you don't have to worry about his condition. Granted, he will need to spend a few days here to recover, but he has a strong will. I'm sure that he will bounce back as if nothing has happened. Emma was the first one to recover and nodded her head in agreement. Nicole is right, Emma stated. I won't tell you girls to not worry about Ethan because I am worried about him myself. However, I believe that he will make a full recovery. So, for the time being, let us listen to Professor Galena's words and wait for him to regain consciousness. After saying those words, Emma turned around and left the infirmary. Her steps were steady, but if one paid closer attention to her, it would be seen that her hands, which dangled by her sides, were trembling slightly. She was very tempted to fight against Lily's older brother, but she knew that she wasn't a match against him. However, that didn't mean that she would take this incident lightly. She would report what had happened to the Meredith clan, so that they could share the news with the other Protector clans. As to how they would react to this incident, Emma had no idea. But she was sure that they wouldn't just sit by and let their young master be bullied by the beast clans from Southshire without retaliation. Inside the infirmary. How is he? Professor Barrett asked. Barely alive, Professor Galena replied. He used up a lot of his life force, so it will take some time before he regains his senses. I will need to ask Reinhardt to give me some ingredients to make an elixir to hasten his recovery. I'm afraid that without it, this boy might stay in a coma for a month or two. Professor Barrett nodded. Understood. Just give me a list of the ingredients. I'll have it prepared as soon as possible. Professor Galena was prepared and handed Professor Barrett a scroll containing the list of all ingredients that she would need for the elixir. After checking its contents, Professor Barrett nodded because although some of the ingredients were rare, they could be bought in some places for a high price. I'll talk to Reinhardt, Professor Barrett stated. Make sure to look after him. This academy needs him. Just who do you think I am? Professor Galena clicked her tongue. As long as I'm here, this boy will not kick the bucket. Professor Barrett smiled before nodding his head in agreement. He then teleported to where Professor Reinhardt was and informed him about Ethan's current condition. After checking the list that Professor Barrett had given him, the corner of Professor Reinhardt's lips twitched. That crazy girl, Professor Reinhardt muttered. Is she planning to use Ethan as a guinea pig to try one of her prototype potions? Well, she looked and sounded confident this time, Professor Barrett smirked. Although she can be eccentric with her self-made potions, they can do wonders from time to time, at least 2 every 5 tries. Professor Reinhardt snorted. You are lucky that she succeeded with the potion she used on you. Otherwise, you might have become a toad by now. Professor Barrett ignored his close friend's comment and asked him the question that was on his mind. Where are Lily's older brother and sister? Professor Barrett asked. They already left, Professor Reinhardt replied. They knew that Lily wasn't in the right state of mind to listen or see them, so they decided to just leave for the time being. I'm guessing that they will be staying in Limeberg town for a day or two before they return to Southshire. Professor Barrett nodded his head in understanding. I wonder how he will react to the news. What do you think? The headmaster of Brynhildr Academy pondered for a while before shaking his head. That person only cares about strength, Professor Reinhardt stated. I don't know whether Ethan and Lily are currently dating, but after what happened today, I'm sure that he will be more curious about his daughter's lover. Professor Barrett pondered for a bit before passing an important piece of information to the headmaster of the academy, making Professor Reinhardt arch his eyebrow. Is this confirmed? Professor Reinhardt asked. Not yet, Professor Barrett replied. But if it is, we need to prepare. Professor Reinhardt smiled as he played with his beard. A moment later, a chuckle left his lips as he thought about the headmaster of Nightfall Academy, Nero. Don't worry, Professor Reinhardt stated. If what you say is true, I know of a good method that will clear all doubts and speculations surrounding this issue. You mean you're going to do that? Professor Barrett asked. Professor Reinhardt nodded. Of course. Since Brynhildr Academy already has it, it must remain in the academy no matter what. Professor Barrett also smiled when he heard his close friend's words. I'll go and gather the ingredients, Professor Barrett stated. You go and hold down the fort. Of course, Professor Reinhardt commented. Come back as soon as you can. Professor Barrett nodded before teleporting away from the academy. He had some places to visit and people to talk to. Ethan was an important member of Brynhilder Academy, and they would be damned if they let him stay in a coma for 1 to 2 months while trouble was brewing outside of their doorstep. A young man slept peacefully as the mermaid princess held him close. Both of them were submerged under the crystal blue waters of the sea, floating gently in its currents. Illumina lightly patted the young man's head, who was resting on her chest. She could tell that he would be waking up in an hour or 2, so she allowed him to sleep until he woke up naturally. The battle against Lily's older brother, Canal, had taken a toll on his body. Fortunately, Professor Galena was truly an accomplished healer, so she made sure that Ethan got the best treatment that she had to offer. Currently, Professor Barrett was collecting the ingredients on her list so that she could create one of her home-brewed elixirs that she had been working on for quite some time. Ethan's body was seriously injured, while his mind and spirit were unstable due to the backlash of his legacy. Because of this, Illumina deemed that it would be for the best if his spirit also rested, so she put Ethan to a dreamless sleep, allowing him to recover faster. It had been 2 days since his battle with Lily's older brother, and there were signs that his spirit had fully recovered from the backlash. The mermaid princess hummed a sweet melody as she continued to lightly pat the young man's head. While she was doing this, 2 beings appeared within the sea a few meters away from her and looked at the teenage boy in her embrace. "I think it will be best if you guide him in the proper use of his legacy, Sebastian," Illumina said softly. "Although he will be able to fight against first and second years, without problems, Lily's family is a variable. We need to speed up his growth and understanding of the Tide Bringer's legacy." Sebastian sighed before nodding his head. "I will help him up to the 3rd level of the legacy only. As for the 4th and the 5th, that will have to wait until his coming-of-age ceremony." Illumina nodded in understanding before she shifted her gaze to Ethan's other half. "When he comes of age, he will also inherit the legacy of his other bloodline, right?" Illumina inquired. "There will not be any conflict between the Tide Bringer's legacy and your legacy, will there?" "If Ethan was an ordinary child, having more than one legacy would be detrimental to his growth," Ethan's other half replied. "But he isn't. His bloodline on his father's and mother's sides are strong. The fact that he was able to awaken the Tide Bringer's legacy is proof of it. Besides, my legacy is an all-rounder. It is compatible with every type of legacy, so there will not be a problem. His great-great-great-great-grandpa was even able to control 4 legacies. Ethan will be just fine." Illumina nodded, a look of relief appearing on her beautiful face. They were 3 powerful beings, and all of them cared for the handsome young man, who still didn't understand anything about his biological family. They were Ethan's strongest allies and closest confidants. As long as it was within their power, they would not hesitate to break a few rules for him. 2 hours later, the young man's eyelids fluttered before they slowly opened. The first thing he felt was that he was nestled in a comfortable embrace, making him feel safe and protected. He also felt very comfortable, making him feel drowsy, even though he had just woken up. But before his eyes could close to sleep again, the images of the battle against Canal appeared inside his mind. Because of this, he became wide awake and looked at his surroundings. At first, he thought that he would find himself in the arena, facing off against Lily's older brother. However, a glance in his surroundings was enough to tell him where he was. "Illumina," Ethan looked at the mermaid princess, who was looking at him with a smile. "Good morning, Ethan," Illumina said. "Did you sleep well?" "Good morning," Ethan replied. "I did, thank you." He vaguely remembered how he lost consciousness after using the 3rd level of his legacy, so he assumed that he was still recovering from his injuries. "How long was I unconscious?" Ethan inquired. 2 days, Illumina answered. "Only your consciousness is awake. As for your body, it is still healing. Right now, you are in a comatose state." Ethan was surprised after hearing the mermaid princess' explanation. A tinge of anxiousness appeared on his face, but Illumina's next words calmed him down a bit. "Don't worry," Illumina stated. "Once your body recovers, you will naturally wake up in the outside world as well. For now, let your body recover. This is the consequence of pushing yourself to the limit." Illumina lightly poked Ethan's head, making the young man smile bitterly. He understood that he would suffer a backlash if he used the third level of his legacy. Even so, he didn't regret it. He would rather be the one to get hurt than let his lovers suffer. "What happened after?" Ethan inquired. "Can you tell me?" Illumina nodded. "Lily jumped on the arena to stand between you and her older brother. Fortunately, Canal didn't make any move to attack you, so the brother and sister didn't confront each other. After that, Professor Barrett took you to the infirmary to let Professor Galena have a look at you. The professor also prevented any visitors from seeing you, but she made sure to inform your girlfriends that you are no longer in danger." Ethan sighed after hearing Illumina's words. He was really worried that Lily was going to do something reckless and attack her family. Fortunately, that scenario didn't happen. "Do you think I got their approval?" Ethan asked. Illumina has an amused look on her face before answering Ethan's question. "I don't know," Illumina said in a teasing tone. "But you managed to break Canal's nose as a result of the duel. I'm sure he got the message after you punched him twice in the face. I'm a bit sad that your last attack didn't make contact with his body. He would have definitely gotten a shock out of that." Ethan was also disappointed that his coup de grace didn't hit its intended target. If it did, he was certain that Canal would have found it to be a very shocking experience. Just as the young man was about to ask another question, he heard someone clearing his throat right beside him, despite the fact that they were under the sea. "Ethan, you did well in the battle against Canal," Sebastian said. "But you could have done better if I had allowed you to use a bit of my power during the match. So, while your body is still recovering, I will train you on how to use my power." Ethan blinked in confusion, because he didn't understand what Sebastian was talking about. What he didn't know was that in order to fully utilize the Tide Bringer's legacy, he needed Sebastian's power to increase its effectiveness. Similar to how Illumina powered up his water magic once he used his partial resonance, Sebastian could also use his own power to aid Ethan in battle, using his sea god's trident. Truth be told, Sebastian only wanted to share this information with Ethan after he had come of age. He deemed that it was still too early for Ethan to wield his power, because the young man had only been introduced to the world of magic for a year. In short, Ethan's foundation in magic wasn't that great. Sure, he could cast powerful spells, and Illumina could even increase the output of his spells. But just like martial arts, being able to throw a punch or a kick didn't make you a master fighter. Without proper techniques, he would be unable to wield his magic effectively. While it was true that Ethan had learned martial arts and magic arts in the lands of Alastair for more than a year, the most he did was solidify his foundations by perfecting the basics. Now that powerful enemies might come looking for him, Illumina and Sebastian deemed it best to push his legacy training forward a bit. As for Ethan's other half, he also planned on helping the young man in other ways. But right now, his Tide Bringer legacy training came first. Canal's appearance had allowed Ethan to get a glimpse on how a true powerhouse fought. In his current state, he was unable to fight someone of that level. So, the thing that Sebastian wanted to teach him was not how to fight beings as strong as Canal, but on how to survive battle against them. Winning and surviving might be two different concepts. But for those that weren't strong enough, being able to survive an encounter with someone that was leagues stronger than them would allow them to live another day. That way, they would be able to grow, and once they'd grown enough, it would not be too late to pay them back for the suffering you received in their hands.